Whether you're a Class 5 rafter or just looking for a couple of laughs, these two have you covered. Welcome to Aaron and Zach's Better Than Mediocre Rafting Show.
Aaron, we have an awesome show today. I am super jazzed. We had to talk to Marty McDonald about the Tuolumne. McDonnell. I even pronounced wrong. I show him as Marty Mac. He's Marty Mac. And about the Tuolumne, about Cherry Creek, about all kinds of stuff. But before we get to that, I want to go over a couple quick things. Right. And the first thing is Sawyer Paddles has this really cool program going on right now where you can donate to Captains for Clean Water. And what this is, have you heard of this, Aaron?
Nope.
So it's all these guides in Florida who aren't working right now because of the hurricane, who are actually, instead of guiding, they're actually like helping manage some of the problems that came from the hurricane. And so it's basically keeping guides employed and helping fix a lot of the problems from the hurricane that happened this fall. And so you can donate to Captains for Clean Water, and somebody is going to win a really awesome set of square top oars. So I'd highly encourage everybody to donate to this. There's a link in the notes for the show, and I don't know, it's a pretty cool program. What do you think, Aaron?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So please, everybody, consider entering.
I'm sorry. I'm just excited to get to talking with Marty.
I know. That's why I'm powering
this along. Yep.
I'm powering through this stuff.
Yeah. Donate.
Okay.
All right. Moving to the next one.
Okay. The next thing is I want to remind everybody about the Ultimate River Runner contest to win this $1,000 gift certificate to Immersion Research. Aaron, make myself big. Next Friday is the final day to enter in round 2. And the winner of round 2 wins an awesome rope. You can win even this awesome rescue rope or a couple other ropes. So please go to whitewaterguidebook.com. Check out how to enter. We have some awesome entries already, and that's next Friday. Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, we're getting down there on that. That is exciting.
Yep. And okay, that's number 2 before we get to Marty. Number 3 is going to take a little bit longer, I think, unfortunately, Aaron. I know you want to get to this. All right. This PFD. Notice anything?
It's a new version of the guide, Big Water Guide PFD.
Yeah. It's out.
So is that to put like fish hooks on the outside of it or something like that?
Which thing?
The black. What's that black? The black material on the right pocket. That material there.
Let me
get
to
like fish hooks.
This right here. I guess I can't zoom in. No, I think it's to like just attach stuff. It's like that military thing where you can like put a little pocket or add something to the exterior.
Oh, Jesus. They still have those silly pockets. I don't know why they don't get rid of the silly pockets that catch your oars.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And it has
it looks good. I don't see much of a difference. I don't like those either. Just they're putting more crap on it, which makes it not as good for swimming. More likely to get stuck when you're pulling yourself back in the raft. I like a clean front on mine. So
I mean, those little nipple ring things don't affect that much.
Yeah, they can still get caught on stuff. Why have it there? I mean, Zach,
that's my. I agree. I think it's kind of silly.
It's like you're encouraging people to clip stuff on the front of their vest. That's not a good idea.
Yeah,
it's like, like why don't you have a big D-ring holder and say D-ring holder, a non-locking D-ring holder here. Just
you could attach carabiners there.
Yeah, non-locking ones would be great.
And a pulley. Put a carabiner and a pulley, and you'll be really cool. So is this better or worse than the last one?
I think the strip, the whatever light strip, the reflective strip is better. And I'd love to hear Marty's thoughts on this.
Okay, we'll get Marty. We'll ask Marty in a second.
Yeah.
Wait, why is the reflector strip better?
Because they didn't have one before.
And do you think it's important?
I think it doesn't hurt.
Okay. What do you think about the big NRS logo on it?
Where's the big NRS logo?
The one like on the reflector strip.
Oh, well, they used to have one down in the lower left pocket, so they just moved it. I don't really care.
Okay, and then
You can cut that one off easier too if you don't want it on, which is
true.
nice.
And then check out the colors.
Oof.
It's kind of nice. There's finally some cool colors.
Yeah, I like the color scene. That's good. They
It's
got rid of the gray. That's just interesting. They got rid of the two colors they used to run. Two of the colors they used to run, which is interesting.
Okay. But this just came out. I thought you'd be interested. Is this now the best guide PFD on the market?
No, I think their older one's better.
Okay, so the older one's the best one.
Yeah.
Why is the older one better?
Because it doesn't have the nipple rings.
Okay. But you can just cut those off if you want.
Yeah, but don't put them on. And then I'm not psyched on that black stuff on the outside.
It doesn't hurt you.
How much flotation does it have? Is it still 22
pounds 9 ounces. Same.
Yeah.
There might be some other bonuses too.
It's fine. I'd like to see more flotation and no nipple rings. I'm not into nipple rings.
What?
And the shoulder straps look narrower. Are they narrower or is that just me?
I don't know. We have to compare them. And if we compare them, we'll be here all day. Well, do you want to, let's get Marty on.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to do an introduction? Because I obviously.
Oh, yeah, I can do a quick introduction. Okay. So we're really lucky. Not sure how many of you guys know Marty McDonnell. I don't know if we should ask him if he says he started Sierra Mac, but anyways, he started boating.
It has his name in it.
Yeah, but the way he claims some stuff in his marketing about like how many generations and whatnot, he kind of includes Bryce in it sometimes with stuff.
Well,
Bryce
sounds like we'll have to ask him.
He bought the company from Bryce, who was kind of one of the original people. And Bryce is an interesting guy. I'd rather let Marty talk about Bryce and what he learned from Bryce. And but I think we're just like Marty's still involved and he's been around since the 60s. And what to say, he kind of has, a very famous company in terms of, running Cherry Creek and running those trips for as long as they have and as successfully as they have. They're a pretty unique part of the industry, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Let me do a better introduction because that was pretty weak, Aaron. I would say Marty is an absolute legend in the outfitting industry and as a guide. Isn't Marty the first person to raft Cherry Creek?
I think he and Walt Harvest did it together.
Yeah. Well, again, we should know this, but he's a legend and somebody who I've always looked up to and as an outfitter and as a guide and who's well known throughout the industry.
And I'm going to say this. I think the kayakers who went up there before him pretty much portaged everything. He was the first one really to run the rapids of the Upper Tuolumne.
And also beyond just doing Upper Tuolumne, he did the Poopernot Valley section. He's rafted places people have never even hardly been since. Yeah, so let's get Marty. I'm going to bring Marty on. Welcome to the show, Marty.
Hi there.
How was our introduction?
Weak and strong.
Yeah, it's pretty weak.
No, I've been doing it a long time, and there's no way you could encapsulate 70 years of navigating.
70 years?
Well, 72 to be exact, from day one. Now,
go ahead.
I retired at 5 years old, so everything from then on is just play. For the most part, I have to work a little bit, but navigating is my thing.
So, do you consider your company like a continuation of Bryce's company, or do you see it as a separate company?
Oh, absolutely. Bryce was the founding father of West Coast rafting on the Rogue, the Klamath, the Stanislaus River, the Tuolumne. I was working for Bryce and did the first exploratory runs on the main Tuolumne with rafts, and did the first commercial trip. And of course, Cherry Creek is my game. I followed Jerry Merrill and Dick Sunderland. They kayaked some of it. But when Walter and I went up to do Cherry Creek, we brought climbing ropes with us to get around some of the rapids that weren't necessary. But Cherry Creek is really is why I live here. I have my house overlooking the canyon because of that section of the river and the main Tuolumne.
So let's go back. I didn't know about that with the main Tuolumne. So you were working for Bryce on the Stanislaus, and then he's like, "Hey, why don't you guys take some rafts up and go check out this Tuolumne ride?" How did that all kind of transpire?
Well, in 1969 or 68, San Francisco proposed 3 dam projects on the Tuolumne, and the Sierra Club said, "Hey, this is sacred territory. You can't do that." And so they went and ran the Tuolumne at 10,000 CFS, and Just a handful of them. And Jerry Merrill and Dick Sunderland and Walter Harvest. Jerry took out at the put-in, which is why it's called Merrill's Pool.
He went down there to run it, put in it, and took off.
Yeah, they put in at the campground. Went through the first rapid and he said, screw this. I guess he had a nasty flip. And Jerry is awesome. But he took out at Merrill's Pool. So when they named all the rapids, they named the put in after him. And then Walter Harvest at 10,000 plus, there's a pretty good sized hole on River Right at the bottom of Rock Garden. And he got recyclated in that for quite a while. So they named that one Harvest Hole, which only exists at high water. But so then Bryce and I went over and ran a Tuolumne trip with his Super Sports, which were the first self-bailing boats that he put together in the 60s. I've been guiding for him for 4 years on the Stanislaus River, Camp 9. I was only 15 when I started. My mother had to drive me over to Bryce's house to get on the bus shuttle truck. But I picked up after Bryce. I ran all the rivers in Northern California that Bryce ran, the Eel, the Trinity, the Smith, and the Klamath, the coastal rivers, and then, of course, the Sacramento and the South Fork of the American. But when I started running the Merced, and it was also the same time I started having children, and I decided, we lost the Stanislaus River for New Maloney's Dam. And then I decided to just raise children and run Tuolumne trips. I sold everything else out or stopped running.
So you commercially did the Eel?
Oh yeah, the Dos Rios run. It's
really?
Covelo to Dos Rios. It's unbelievably beautiful water.
Yeah.
There's
is that the middle fork of the Eel?
Dos Rios to Alder Point is the Eel run.
That's the main Eel run. Is Dos Rios down, but we put in upstream near the little town of Covelo.
Yeah.
I believe it's the middle fork. I can't remember. It's been quite a few decades since I've been up there, but there was one rapid that was awesome that we had to portage.
Yep, that's the middle fork.
Coal Mine Falls or something like that.
Yep. You did that commercially.
Yeah. It was.
I had no idea.
You go up there on weekends and do that. When I first ran Cherry Creek, I had quite the ego blew up, and I decided I could run Coal Mine Falls. That's nothing compared to Cherry Creek. And until I got right above the drop that corkscrews up onto a rock and then corkscrews down into a pool, and it's like a Hawaii 5-0 wave. There's just no way you can survive it, even if you hit it perpendicular. So I had a flip there and was humbled once again, which the river is notorious for doing that, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
Side note, I did that with Bill Tuttle. I don't know if you know Bill Tuttle. The guy who's that California Creeks website. He's a duck eater. Mm-hmm. He accidentally ran it because he didn't know where he was in the river. And all I saw him was swimming around the corner. He thought it was like 2 miles down and went into it and ran it and swam the bottom.
Yeah, I actually have 5 pictures of me running Coal Mine Falls or running the first part and then swimming the last. I did when I flipped on the rock, I actually did a dry roll. I walked up on the edge of the boat and made it to the bottom of the boat without getting wet.
That doesn't sound like a bad line. Sounds like that works.
But the two passengers I had on my boat were not so lucky, and they got thumped pretty good with it underneath of the boat.
So is this that boat that you're talking about that Bryce designed? Is it using that same boat at this point?
Yeah, that was the Huck Finn. It's like 4 21-inch, 22-inch diameter tubes, 14 feet long, going to sort of nose cone points on tail and stern bow. And so there's 4 tubes side by side, laced together, so you can put all the cargo across the middle, rowing frame on the back, passengers in the front, and then you're leaning against your bags as a backrest, so it's one big couch. Yeah, that's a picture of Flat Rock Falls on Cherry Creek. We stopped running cats because they were too flippy and they couldn't take cargo or people.
So that's one of the cats, and
that's a Huck Finn.
That's a Huck Finn there?
Oh, yeah, okay. That's 4 tubes side by side of 2 passengers in the middle. And I'm using Orlocks there, by the way, which I sported for a couple of years until I realized they were next to useless sometimes.
There we go.
Yeah. So this one here, Marty.
Yeah.
So that other one was the cataract that we were just looking at.
No, the one before was a full huck fin. This is that's a huck fin, and I have oarlocks on there, and then the.
What about
this
one, Marty?
is the boat that I made in the early '70s to go down to South America. It has like a telescoping frame, and those are pretty lightweight tubes.
But this is a cataract.
This is a cataract. It was the first one I put on the water. Was to do the exploratory trips on Cherry Creek in '73.
Where'd you get the tubes?
I made those.
You made the tubes?
When you say you made them, did you physically make them yourself?
Well, I didn't make the rubber, but I bought rolls of rubber and cans of glue, cut out the patterns, and that was handmade. When I was a teenager, I used to make kayaks. I made the first surfing kayak that out of Bolinas. And we used to be able to get pretty good fabric in boats made in the 60s from rubber fabricators. During the Vietnam War, you could get really good material that would be unpenetrable by sun or knives. And but then after the early 70s, all the boats we bought were junk until Sotar started making them. So I ended up making my own. I made about 6 huck fins and 2 cataracts. We called them spider boats at the time, water spiders.
So the huck fins, when we were working down the Tuolumne in the late 90s, early 2000s, those are huck fins that you built in the early 70s?
No, well, some of them were ones that Bryce built in the 60s. The ones I built, the fabric sort of decayed in the sunlight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Let's see here. The ones that Bryce had made, they were double layers of fabric, triple layers of neoprene, and they weighed about 45 pounds a tube. So the boats were heavy, 200 pounds of rubber plus frame. Frame stayed on all the time. You deflate the boat and fold the front end on top of the back. The oars were the oar rig was on the very back of the boat, so it's like front wheel drive. You look at the back there, yeah, that's a huck fin. That's the standard 4 passengers on the Tuolumne. I think that's India.
So pins and clips. And Marty, is that you rowing?
Yeah.
No PFD.
Yeah. Why no PFD? Was this back when you guys thought they were dangerous?
Yeah. In the 70s, I was a fish, and for me, it was better to swim underwater than being stuck on the surface. I was wrong. I would never recommend people not.
Did you learn the hard way, or
well, as you get older, you don't float so well, and it's like wearing seatbelts. I'm very comfortable wearing a seatbelt, and I'm comfortable wearing a flotation jacket. But in the 60s and 70s, real guides, what we thought were real, nobody wore life jackets at all. I mean, you look at any of the pictures from the 60s, and passengers would all wear them, and not the guides. And
wow.
So of course, this was an old picture, and I mean, look at those arms. I had really good arms. I could swim pretty good.
Oh, you were yoked.
Yeah. So what were the craft that you said that the craft that you said that Bryce invented? Was that the spider craft, or what was his self-made?
Well, he did 2 things. He bought these 44-foot, 22-foot long flotation docks that the submarines use to put all they leave us a cache of gear and food and ammunition on these floatable things out in the ocean, and then the ship that left it there would just leave it on this floating dock. And so Bryce got 2 of those, then they cut them in half, so he had an 11-foot 6-foot wide floating platform. Those were glued together, and so he modeled the huck fin after that. But larger diameter tubes, of course, because it gives you more cargo ability, and lacing together, the water just drains right through the lacings. So he's responsible for developing the huck fins. The only craft that I really take a lot of pride and credit for is actually taking his boat and taking the center 2 tubes out and sporting it as a cataract. And then I built boats. I had rolls of material and glued them together.
So Did you invent the cataract?
I didn't invent the catamaran. I mean, they were used. I had a catamaran sailboat, but
Before whitewater.
For whitewater, I put the first cataract on the water in '73. I don't think anybody has beat me by 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
I think the guy that does sport yaks or those little blue things, he also built a small cataract for fishermen, but that was later. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, trying to figure out how to do Cherry Creek, and it just made sense to have a lighter boat. They just don't take very much weight. If you put much weight on a cataract, they plow through the water. They don't skim, and so it's like rowing 2 logs down the river. You might as well have 4 tubes or a bathtub type boat.
So, did you practice with your Spidercraft down on the main before you took them up on Cherry Creek, or did you just go for it?
Good question. I'd like to say I practiced on the main first, and I probably did, but I don't remember that.
Okay. You guys didn't do like, yeah, we're gonna train for a long time, get ready, catch every eddy. Let's go for it. Yeah.
I was 23 years old and invincible, and fearless. I think that I had it blown up on rigged in the front yard. But putting it, it just made sense that it would be the best thing to do Cherry Creek and something like that, which it was. But they're more flippy. They don't take weight, and the newer I think NRS or Sotars makes some nice tubes that are pretty cool shapes. Mine were not as good as they are now.
How did you talk someone to come in your raft up there? Did you have to go through a bunch of people to find someone who said yes?
Oh, no. I had Walter Harvest, who was a national kayak champion, and he worked for Bryce and worked for me on the Tuolumne. The guy had longer arms than I had, and just the perfect body for kayaking. And he was an incredible navigator. And then for passengers, I had Mark Dubois and Fred Dennis. They're like, Mark Dubois is, of course, a legend as well.
Yeah.
He, was a tall guy, and Mark and Fred started a business called Etc., which is now access for the wilderness and rivers to handicapped people. Fred and Mark were really good friends of mine, and we did a lot of high water adventure trips together. So it was logical that they would join us.
Oh, that's cool.
I want to talk about this first ascent of Cherry Creek. It was the first. It was the first raft ascent of Cherry Creek, right? You were the first person to raft it.
Yes, the only people I knew who had done it before was Jerry Merrill and Dick Sunderland, and they couldn't find the put-in initially, so it took them a day to get to the put-in. And then when they got on the water, they couldn't figure out how to do the shuttle, and then they got it as far as Miracle Mile and hiked out. And,
wow.
And dragged their boats out of the canyon. So they really
So Miracle Mile, they didn't get through. They missed a lot of it.
Yeah, they got probably halfway down. I don't mean to diminish their
no,
because it was them. Well, when you look at it, the we scouted from the bottom up from Lumsden Bridge. I mean, Lumsden Falls is like a pretty awesome undercut ledge at the bottom, and a sieve in the entrance. So it looked unrunnable. We thought we could run. We were laughing at ourselves after every rapid, and we concluded that we'll be able to do Lumsden Falls. We're so good. And when we got there, we looked at it again and went, nah, it's not for us. And so we took out on River Right, just right above the falls.
When Jerry and Dick ran it, did they spend multiple days up there camping going down, or did they do like just one day and then hiked out? Do you remember?
They hiked. I think they hiked out in the sort of dusk, and then came back the next day and got their kayaks and.
Hiked I remember something about overnight something. Yeah.
They did 2 nights that they were not expecting.
On the river.
Yeah. Well,
they're just trying to find put-in.
Well, you couldn't find I think they went up at night, and finding the put-in is a little sketchy because there's no signs to Home Powerhouse, and there's no GPS in those days, and I mean, I had a hard time finding it as well. We went to the bridge over at Cherry Creek, and then we woke up in the morning and sort of saw the penstock coming down the side of the hill, and then found the road down to the powerhouse. we really should have done more scouting. Like tried to hike the river. There's a trail on the north side, the Anderson Mine Trail, and we would have been able to have seen what we were going to experience in Miracle Mile a lot better.
But what's the fun in scouting first? Well,
just
go for it.
I would say that the most fun is to do something is to have somebody on the trip who knows where to go and where not to go. It takes some of the thrill out of it.
Totally.
So I wouldn't recommend you going up there and trying to figure it out, because the scouting sucks. You scout half the rapids you scout. You don't need to scout them the next time, because there's nothing. You just don't want to commit yourself to go to the right side of a rock when you really shouldn't be going to the right side of the rock.
Yeah.
And you hike down the shore, look, oh yeah, that's not a problem, and then go back up. And the cataracts are really good for stopping. You could hold back. You could almost row upstream in most all flat water.
I want to go back to the first descent really quick. So before you rafted it, only 2 people had kayaked it ever, and they only made it halfway. And then you
Correct.
said, I want to take my spider down this thing.
Yeah, well, I had kayaked the Tuolumne, and I started out kayaking as a 13-year-old. My older sister introduced my family to rafting and kayaking. My father bought a little raft. We went on a Bryce Whitmore trip on the Sacramento River in '62, and my sister had been kayaking with the Sierra Club since the mid-'50s, and so she introduced my parents to boating, and we did she taught me how to kayak, and then my dad bought a raft, a little yellow raft. I think you might have a picture of that one.
Yeah, I think we do have a picture.
And
I'll find it.
So my father and mother were in this little yellow raft, little 6-man raft, which was grossly negligent to try to do a wilderness trip on something so flimsy. But nonetheless, we did this 10-day trip up in British Columbia with my sister and I. And by the time I was 15, I was building boats. I bought two molds and a downriver mold. And do you have it on the screen? There, yeah. That's my backyard where I was building. Those are my downriver boats, and I'm looking at working on cleaning up the mold. After they pop out, you have to sort of clean them up. And then I had that's an old DeBoard designed downriver boat for big guys, and then the Letman was the fiberglass boats that I was building for slalom racing.
Oh, yeah. So wait, you and your family just decided to go to British Columbia? Is this in British Columbia? Or this is like on Sacramento River or something?
No, it's on the Columbia River. It's a tributary to the Columbia called the Canoe. It was something that Lou Elliott, who founded ARTA, did for the Sierra Club back in the late or early, like a couple of years before, like 1959 or 1960. That's my dad and my mother in a little yellow raft. And that's me and my white downriver boat, and my sister's boat was in the red one.
And how many days did you do up there on that run?
10-day trip.
You guys had enough stuff for 10 days in that little yellow boat and your kayaks. Wow.
Yeah. Well, my mother was into freeze-dried food, and she's a pretty intense detail person. So she had little packages of freeze-dried stuff for each day, and we sort of survived on that.
Did you guys cook on fire, or did you bring a stove?
Fire.
Oh wow, that looks like a cool trip.
For it, yeah. So then when I was in high school, I started surfing with kayaks, and I built a surfing kayak that had a very short stern, so you could spin.
Oh wow.
Sort of like this is.
Oh, like that. Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
Do you stand on it or?
No, you sit in the back.
But you don't get inside of it. You just sit in the back.
Oh yeah, no. This was just, of course, a model.
Oh, okay.
But I had a hatch, and then they developed into making more of a square. That was a little too pointy. The pointy ones didn't have enough flotation in the bow to do it, and
So, Marty, when you went up and did Cherry Creek, did you guys have any problems on that first run? Did anyone swim?
No, we had you're so much on the edge of with a lot of adrenaline and excitement. You don't. There's no complacency to make mistakes by being sloppy. We were at the top of our game, and we did 3 trips, one right after another. About 3 weeks apart. We did 3 trips and brought other guides up with us, and it was just awesome. You didn't really know how steep it was until you got down to the bottom, and they would look up and go, "Oh my God!" We would just laugh.
Wait, what year was this?
73.
And then when did you decide to start running commercial trips up there?
After the first 2 trips, I was pretty convinced that this could never be done commercially. And then after the 3rd trip, you sort of isolate it down to there's like 3 or 4 rapids that are magical tricks that you can't always guarantee success. Of course, you never can guarantee success all the time. The most dangerous place is the easy rapids. But once we sort of figured out how to do Mushroom and Miracle Mile and Lewis's Leap, and a few others that were sort of pesky, then we started doing with passengers of exceptionally good health. They were, and the main ticket for doing successful Cherry Creek trips with clients is you scrutinize your clients. You don't just take somebody because they paid for it. They have to be able to swim across the river, swim under the boat, climb up onto the boat, help somebody else. And then before they even get that far, they have to do sort of, Simon says, like jumping jacks, run around in circles, get down on there, do push-ups. And
were you guys doing that stuff back in the 70s with them?
With clients, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You were doing all that, so that's been around, because I mean, when I was working trips in the 2000s, we were still doing all that stuff that you guys did back in the 70s, it sounds like. A lot of the same stuff. The jump around games. Yeah.
Well, and I think our clients in those days were way more. Hold on a second. Hi, I'm on the line. Thanks. UPS. The clients those days were way more durable. They were more adventurous. And,
isn't that true of people back then, in general?
Well, yeah, that's a hot subject, isn't it? Back then, they don't. Yeah, that's a whole other subject. The entitlement of the millennials being able to just do it all on a device. Why actually use your arms and legs?
Marty, we just saw a photo of you doing a 10-day trip with a little flimsy rubber raft and a couple kayaks.
Yeah,
like nobody would do that nowadays. We have to have our stoves and our chairs and our umbrellas. Our cooler full of beer. How much beer did you guys bring on that trip?
Well, I was only 13. I didn't drink beer.
Did your parents bring beer?
I think no. My father was more of a whiskey martini drinker, and he may have had some sort of flask going on. I don't remember that being he didn't get drunk or whatever, but he did have alcohol. My mother was more of into gin, but there was no ice. It was all freeze dried stuff, and back, I was first working for Bryce. I was, just in my mid-teens, and the passengers they were just more able to walk and get off the boat and swim and stuff. But that's more like only 10% or so of the passengers I get now are in the adventurous group that were so prevalent back, in the.
Do you think the people who are looking for really adventurous now are kind of like going off and doing their own thing instead, like?
Yeah.
So like we just don't see those people as much, and this is more of a mainstream thing, and before it's more of a kind of a.
Although my Cherry Creek clients, they are more adventurous group, of course. Although some just think they look at your menu and they just buy the most expensive thing and the most adventurous thing, and then they get up there and they don't make the swim.
I want to go back and ask a few more questions about when you started doing these trips. So were you still running when you did those 3 trips the first year, and then you started taking people up there? Were you still running the spider boats, or did you switch over to running the?
Huck fins. Yeah, spider boats.
Ooh.
You put two. First problem with spider boats is if you have just one passenger, then the passenger and the guide are like the weight is not good. It's right down the middle, so the tubes will roll around the weight. And if you have ideally in a cataract, you want 2 people, one on the left front, one on the right front, so then you have a more balanced boat. But then the boat starts to plow and it doesn't skim, and so there's really no. And to make money, to make it worth your while, you need more than 2 passengers on a boat. And so we started using Huck fins, which you could take 4. And then in the early 80s, we switched. We with Sotar finally figured out how to make a self-bailing boat, which was largely due to us helping him make a design that would work. Sotar made the first self-bailing sort of bathtub type boat. And so they made some Huck fin tubes for us, but they just, people really want to be in the enclosed bathtub type thing. And so the piano hinge floor that allows water to drain through the edge really made paddle boats possible, because Huck fins are worthless for paddle boats. And
you were rowing 4 people up on Cherry Creek in a Huck fin?
2 to 4, mostly 2. We didn't do that much until the early 80s when Sotars came across it. We started doing pure paddle boats and paddle oar combinations, and the pure paddle boats work fine most of the time, but you lose half your passengers and they're kind of useless for navigating.
But you did Cherry Creek commercially with a Huck fin. That was a thing that happened.
The first ones were with Huck fins, yeah. But then it's more passive for the passengers, as you can see.
They're holding on, right?
Yeah, they're just holding on, and they move. They have the high side. They move around, but people want to have a paddle in their hand. I get it. They need to be connected to the river, and a paddle is it.
Well, as a guide, isn't it easier if they have a paddle in their hand too?
Sometimes.
Because it seems like at least they can help a little bit.
Sometimes, yeah. Well, a lot of the time they can help. Of course, it's I would say on Cherry Creek it's essential. If they just sat there and did nothing, that wouldn't work. No, they have to work. I was being glib. On the Cherry Creek, it's a team. It's not like training wheels on a bike. You need to have 4 people who paddle or 2 people that paddle. On the main Tuolumne, on the other hand, I was thinking more like, well, it's the paddles in their hand is kind of like window dressing. I think most guys would prefer to have the passengers not paddling.
Unless it's a straight paddle boat. I mean, that's with oars in the back. But if you ever do like a paddle boat with the guy that has a paddle, you need them to paddle.
Yeah, well, having a paddle is like having a unicycle for a bicycle. It's fun. I mean, I did paddle boat captaining on the Tuolumne and the Stanislaus for a year, and my back got, your back, you get that twist all the time. You're not.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to use where is the power? It's not in your hands. Where it's not in your arm here. The power is in the river or your thighs. And you want to be connected to your oars. Through your thighs, your arms, and then you have so much more leverage. Whereas a paddle is a tenth of the leverage as an oar is.
Yeah, I agree with that in a lot of ways, Marty. But I'm gonna say, I like the paddle boat because I don't have to work nearly as hard because I just got a little paddle. And when you got oars, I feel like everyone in the boat expects you to do all the work because you got oars in the back and they don't think they really have to do anything. But if you have a paddle,
I don't call it work, Aaron. I call it play or art. If you kind of just work or it's something you don't want to do, well, then you're really in the wrong profession.
Well, I want to do it the least amount of work possible. I like it, but I enjoy doing the least amount of effort
Aaron doesn't
possible.
want to use his muscles. He wants to
paddle
be there.
boat is, I feel like I'm using my most important muscle when I'm using a paddle boat, my brain.
But Aaron, a brain is not a muscle. Just so you know.
Well, when you're in a paddle boat, you're navigating passengers, and you're really having to figure out you're navigating the people and of course the river too. But there's more. When I finished my career, I switched from taking passengers to just cargo. massive cargo boats was my favorite. I would put as much weight as ice, beer. I really loved heavy cargo boats. That high water cargo boat, 6,000 CFS of the Tuolumne with a couple thousand pounds of shit on the boat was just heaven for me.
I'm the same. I love
You and Zach,
boats.
yeah.
I don't even want my gear. We wouldn't even with Echo. We wouldn't even make our gear lighter. We had the heaviest gear on the Tuolumne, and I didn't care.
I don't know. Sierra Mac.
Yeah, we were heavier. Yeah,
their coolers. Sierra Mac coolers were by far the heaviest.
Also, to dig on Aaron a little bit.
Please do.
If the river is really doing most of the work, because all you're doing is using your oars like sails and deflectors. It's like ruddering. And if an intelligent guide uses his oars as sails or rudders, a more of a brute type guide, thinks it's all doing this is making the boat go where it wants to go.
Marty, I'm the brute. Aaron's the smart one here.
I'm just gonna say this. I'm gonna say, I agree, Marty, if you do it well. But if you really do it well, then you can just do this a little bit and call a couple of turns and do the same thing. It's even less effort. Just sit in the back. You don't have to do much. You train your crew well enough. I just sit back there.
Aaron sits on the bottom of the floor in the back, puts his head above the tubes, and yells commands at people. That's what Aaron does.
Mark, do you ever meet a guy named Jimbo Tishner?
Oh, yeah, I know Jimbo.
Okay, so I learned from Jimbo a long time ago. He had this command called paddle at will, where you just let everyone in your boat do whatever paddle stroke whenever they want to. Yeah. I love that command. I say paddle at will, and some groups I just end up sitting in the bottom of the boat and they just paddle the boat down. I wouldn't have to do anything.
Yeah, but you're not doing class 4+ or 5 or high water trips with that.
Oh, I've done it on the Tuolumne, on the main paddle at will, and not even use my paddle. Like just
on the easy stuff. I want to see how that goes at Nemesis next time.
We didn't start that high up. We kind of got into it. They did it for Sunderland's though. Not Sunderland's. What's
Grace Grindstone?
Grace Grindstone. Yeah, you were on that trip, Zach. You were on one of those trips where I did that.
Maybe it'll work. Hey, Marty, we have a question from a viewer. Yeah. Are there many private boaters in Cherry Creek?
A lot of kayakers, very few rafters. There used to be a lot of rafters, but not so much anymore.
When do you think the heyday was of seeing the private boaters up there?
I don't know. It's all blends together for me. It's like 90s. Early 2000s.
Do you remember when you first saw your first other boat up there and you're like, whoa, somebody else is up here trying to run this?
Not sure about that one.
Yeah, good.
Like I said, the game I'm in now, the past kind of blends together quite a bit.
Yeah, I remember because I felt like there was a point too when there was a ton of kayakers up there when Larry used to hang out up there all the time, and the kayakers just come up and kayak with Larry. And then,
there's still tons of kayakers. There has to be tons of kayakers now.
Yeah, there was a group of kayakers that were living at Casa Loma. There was like the Casa Loma Dirtbag Kayaker Club. They didn't buy anything maybe except for a cup of coffee, and they would just do rotations every day at Creek Day, and they were competition for the shuttle service.
Well, I used to do. I used to paddle the creek and then get paid $15 to drive a truck out.
Yeah.
For Marty, you'd work for Marty. Yeah.
I'd probably work for Marty. I'm sure I worked for. I'd call you up. Like, Marty, you need a car driven out today, and it was win-win because we have a shuttle and we made $15.
That was when Bob was running the shuttles, wasn't it?
I wouldn't call Marty because Marty. Yeah, I'd call Bob or.
Bob. When Bob was running.
Man. Bob and Rick Barnes.
Rick Barnes, my bus drivers.
Yeah. So, okay, So then,
I want to go back to this first time Cherry Creek really quick, and back to we've gone over this, but it fascinates me. You had the cataract thing, which you call a spider, and people sat on the front tubes and paddled.
No, they didn't paddle. They just sat.
They just sat. They just hugged the tube.
There was a passenger deck on the front. And I made a seat for them.
Like a seat they can sit up against, like put it back up against, or there was just something they could hold on to?
Just like a little tractor seat type thing. Maybe.
So with the spider, they would just sit in the front of it and do nothing.
That sounds hard to stay.
No, they had high side.
Got it.
And it was mostly.
Wouldn't it be easier without them?
Yeah, but I'm social.
Wait, did you ever do it by yourself with nobody in the front?
Yeah, like the 5th trip down, I did it with Bryce, and it was just Bryce on his boat, and Bryce and I took my own. The bad part about that was there was like 5 rapids that he didn't want to do, so I had to do it twice by myself altogether, without any backup. That was kind of nasty.
I don't understand twice on your you would do a rapid.
He didn't want to run, so I'd run Flat Rock Falls and come back up and run his boat through Flat Rock Falls.
Because you both had spiders.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So the very first time you did it, you had a spider and people sitting on the front tubes.
Well, they were sitting on a bridge between the front tubes. Yeah,
on the bridge between the front tubes, but they were sitting up there. Even though that was more difficult, because you're social, you brought them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you need a balance. A high sider is helpful, and I could row from the tail. If I were rowing by myself, I'd have to move the frame to the middle of the boat, and I really like rowing from the back.
Okay.
Why do you like rowing from the back?
Do you like front wheel drive on your car?
Yes.
That's why.
You row from the back because you like
from the back. Then you control the weight from the back. When you're in the middle of the boat, your weight is in the front and the back. The rotation is weird. But when you're on the very back of the boat, then you're driving upstream and you're pulling the load behind you. You're pulling behind a rock. You're swinging the load in behind a rock. Whereas when you're in the middle of the boat, your tail hits the rock. You have to be quite a ways downstream on the eddy line before you can actually dig into it.
Yeah, I
think that makes a lot of sense on Cherry Creek.
Anybody that has
Zach and I've had some conversations.
It doesn't make sense on the Grand Canyon. It doesn't make sense on. I think it makes sense on technical California rivers.
Yeah, on the Grand Canyon is a different story altogether. Yeah. It's still having passengers behind you is not a good thing because they'll take an oar in the head or they fall out and you don't know it. And it's best to have your passengers in front of you.
Those Huck Finn gearboats you had on the T, I remember it would just be a guide in the back of those Huck Fins and this massive stack of gear in front of them. Yeah. And that looked like a lot of fun. They're just swinging that thing through, going through a drop, pulling over, and they're just swinging that load around. Looked like a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it's the best. I'm amazed that Huck Fins didn't catch on and become the ultimate craft in the future. I still have a pile of them, but they're heavy, and the newer guys don't want to look at those things.
I would run one in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
Wait, maybe they'll come back and be in the future. Our future from now, that will be the best boat ever.
Well, you could take any 2 cataracts and merge them together, and you'd have a Huck Fin.
But weren't the Huck Fins the tubes only like a foot tall?
22-inch diameter tubes.
Oh, really?
The first ones,
they seem smaller than that for some reason.
The Super Sports, which you were there before you were born, they were 18-inch diameter tubes. Very wet.
Do you have any of the Super Sports still? Do you have any of those around?
Yeah, but it's. I think it may have gone to the dump. There's one at Chris's house.
So if a guide wanted to run, one of your guides wanted to run a Huck Fin down the lower T, you would let them. You'd be like, cool, I'll bring it over, run it.
It'd be sort of like if you had a Model A in your barn that sat there, or Model T in your barn for 20 years, and you had to start it up. There'd be a lot of that kind of issues. Like, does it hold air?
Let's say the Model A worked great. Like it holds air, it's all there, and they're like, hey, Marty, I want to run a Huck Fin. Would you allow them to run a Huck Fin on a commercial trip?
Yeah, if I knew it hold air, yeah, sure. The passengers would want to be. I think when we were transitioning between Huck Fins and bathtub type boats, the passengers could request a paddle boat, and they had to pay more to have a paddle in their hand because it takes more boats to do 20 people down the river who are paddling than all riding in the transition period. They were Huck Fins was the standard ride, and paddle boats was the extra deal.
The deluxe ride.
It depends on your point of view. Sometimes halfway down, the people in the paddle boats are envious of those in the oar boats, and those in the oar boats, wanted to be in the paddle boats initially, but we're really glad they weren't. Especially the 1-day trips now on the Tuolumne, it's a long day for a paddle boat.
Man. What
So
if?
there's-
Okay, let me ask one more question. 'Cause I'm super curious. What if a guy down Cherry Creek said, "Marty, I want to run a hook fin down Cherry Creek"? In this day and age, would you let him?
Sure.
Awesome.
Why not? They won't do it because it's old school, and they historic over the millennial. People always think the new thing is better, and they don't really understand why something older might be a better thing.
Marty, aren't most of your guides older than Zach and I? Most of your Cherry Creek guides, or around our age?
I think
They better not be.
Adam Crom is 56, and he's the best of the best. Tom is my son Tom, who's close to having the pink slips to my business. He is right up there in the top 4 or 5. He's
Yeah, how old is
37. He's 37.
37. Yeah, they're not young. These aren't spring chickens. These are
I think that to guide on Cherry Creek, you probably want to be in your 30s, ideally. You want to be young, strong, agile, but have some experience.
I think biologically you peak at like 28 or something there, and fighter pilots are sort of somewhere between 26 and 30. Invincible, top of their shape, mentally sharp. I remember when I was in my late 30s thinking that my intelligence and experience made up for the fact that I wasn't at the top of my physical game, which probably was true when I was 38, but it wasn't true when I was 48.
Yeah,
okay, we got some comments.
Yeah. First,
someone should throw some money at Sotar to make a huck fin. Should we? Who wants to do that? Who wants to throw some money?
I think Marty. Didn't you have some?
Oh yes, Sotar made huck fins for us before they made the self-bailing bathtub boats.
They didn't hold up that well though, did they?
And they didn't figure out the what we called tits, which is not PC, but the cones on the very front, they'd hit rocks and they blow up and rip, and so they just would spit out air. But they've perfected that a lot better. They essentially Sotar makes huck fins. If you just take 4 cataract tubes and lace them together, you've got a bomber huck fin.
Marty, so what do you dislike about the huck fins? Why weren't you? Because when I'd see you rowing, when the huck fins were still around, when they would just temporarily take up, you weren't choosing to row them at that point either.
I rode them pretty much at the end of my career. I used them as cargo boats. They were the cargo boats, and then the thing I wouldn't say I don't like about them, but the reason why they're not used, we stopped using them because people wanted to be. Several reasons. One is that everybody wanted to be in a paddle boat, and secondly, they were built in the 60s, so there's a lifetime problem with some of the seams. They were held together on a flange that was also the seam, and that's over time those seams, laminated seams, would come apart, and they were bitch to fix. And the other part is it's a square boat, and the bathtub boats are rolled up like a hot dog bun. And if you're doing a truckload, the square boats just don't fit very well with the round boats. It's just sort of like square peg round hole.
So here in this boat here, you've got your frame rigged back of center.
Yeah,
and I like this. I like this. It's pretty far back. Yeah, I like this. I like this rig when I'm rowing on the Tuolumne, rowing technical stuff like this. Even if I'm rowing gear, it's nice. It runs nice. The boat runs nice.
Yeah. That's the 15-foot Sotar big diameter tubes, and that's a hot rig.
Is this the Cherry Creek boat, the one like the classic Cherry Creek design, or this is something different?
That's the Creek boat. Well, maybe it's a 14. It's a 14. Yeah, the Creek boat is the bow is not turned up as much. It's more of a blunt bow.
And why? I get this question a lot. Why on Cherry Creek do you want a more blunt bow with less rocker?
Well, there's a lot of continuous Class 5. So imagine if you go like through the goalposts and you drop through a drop and you hit a wave. The first thing you want to do is stop and then typewriter over to the left or right. And if you have a blunt front, when it hits that wave, it stops and blows up a wave in front of everybody. If you have an upturned bow, it just hits and skips over and goes downstream a lot faster, sooner than you want. So it's a blunter bow has much more stopping power.
For running more technical rivers, for like stopping, so you can slow yourself down, make a maneuver, go over a drop, slow down, make a maneuver.
They're not. Yeah, I mean, you blow up, like in big water. They're not so good because you blow up into the holes. You don't go up and over. But we call them creek boats. I mean, they're all of our boats are designed for being on Cherry Creek, and they're not the optimum boat for the main Tuolumne, but they're pretty close.
I want to go back to, you talk about rafts as bathtub boats, and you almost have seem to have a disdain for rafts. Do you have a disdain for rafts?
No, I mean, what do you call rafts? I mean, rafts are
what you're sitting in right now.
The photo, the image.
Oh, well,
they called it a bathtub boat earlier.
Well, they look like a bathtub, and before they were self bailers, they held water like a bathtub, and the only good reason for having a bathtub boat was you had a bailing bucket in water fights.
Yeah, I mean, Zach and I started off in this bucket boats. We got a lot of comments here. Should we kind of zip through some of these? And
when did Wards Ferry get so bad for card theft? Do we want to answer that?
Has it gotten worse, or is it just one of the things that you get older, you think it's worse, but it's really always been the same?
It's always been bad. Yeah. Wards Ferry. Before rafting trips, there used to be a road between Sonora and Groveland, and there's just downstream is a place called Murderer's Gulch, and so the miners carrying their gold to Sonora got robbed and killed often. Several Ward who had the ferry got robbed and murdered. The cops don't like going down there because they don't have radio contact with their backup systems. Teenagers have bonfires with tires in the middle of the road on Friday and Saturday nights, sort of on a regular basis. It's a lawless place, and it's that's kind of the West. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Look at the graffiti. You can tell that the intelligence of the participants are right up there.
I'm putting this photo up of Wards Ferry Bridge just to get some context for people that don't know.
Yeah, it's I mean, I feel there have always been problems there. So
there's some good graffiti on that one. So, free the rivers.
I mean, there's always been amazing graffiti on that bridge. It's almost like you had this wonderful wilderness trip on the Tuolumne River, and you made new friends, and you're walking up, and you just see some of the most obnoxious graffiti ever. Like some of the things, I don't know, they must repaint that every few years. But I still remember some of the things written on that bridge that I don't want to repeat on the show. It's pretty crazy. This, for those people that don't know Wards Ferry Bridge to take out for the Tuolumne, you use this crane, and this yellow crane on the bridge that's Marty's crane, lowers a rope, puts some straps around the boats, and then pulls them up onto the bridge.
And if I remember correctly, Marty, you were the first one to do this, right?
Yeah, that's the second version of the truck. I'm quite proud of this illegal activity. Using the bridge as a crane platform. Before I had a boom truck, the road used to go right down to the bottom of the bridge, and then before that, we could go another 5 miles downstream to Moccasin, where there was like a 500 yards of cobblestones that you could drive right to the water's edge. Well, when the reservoir backed up, you couldn't do that, and then when the road they had built to build the bridge washed out, then to carry your boat up to the bridge really, really sucks. It's dangerous. It's not something it probably is one of the reasons why people don't raft the Tuolumne as much because of the takeout. But that truck up there, I would call that truck Priscilla. And Priscilla is our main heartthrob of the trips. It's if she breaks down, everything stops to fix it.
So I remember you guys had this promotional video for rafting the Tuolumne. And at the end of it, you have your boat's getting boomed up, and you have the photo in the background of people like carrying their rafts up. Or some other. There's like this old like 80s promotional video. It's hysterical. We used to have it. Yeah.
Well, I remember distinctly a time when Whitewater Voyages had their passengers carry the boats up to the bridge, and the passengers would often get up to the bridge, set the boat down, walk over to the boom truck, and say, "Next time we come, we want to go with you. Can you give me your card?"
oh, that's awesome.
But it extended our lives. And Chris and I had been, our backs are messed up and from carrying heavy loads. And so, the wheel was invented a long time ago. And it's an essential piece of the puzzle.
No, I'm so grateful you started doing that. I couldn't imagine having.
Oh, Aaron, you would not have survived.
No, I would not.
No, hard work. No. You don't really like mix that well.
No, I like easy work. Yeah.
Marty,
Zach, have you tried the new put-in? Have you seen the put-in ramp?
I've seen photos of it, but I haven't been there.
Oh, the put-in ramp is awesome.
Talk about soft. Now that the guys are all soft and out of shape now. It's perfect. It's millennial guiding on the Tuolumne.
I mean, to give viewers perspective, you just have to carry all the gear down like 50 feet to the river. And it wasn't like a nice trail. It was a little rocky. I mean, rafts, kitchen boxes, everything got carried 50 feet down to the river.
Now we used carts with wheels, and
we never did.
And before the carts, I used to use the same truck. We'd run a cable down to the gauging station, little cement tower down there, and we would roll the boats down with pulleys.
And if we got there first and took it, you guys would get all upset with us if we took.
Oh well, yeah, it was our put-in. It wasn't yours.
We never had carts. We never had pulleys. We carried everything down by hand.
And the gear was heavy, really heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, see, like when the owner has to carry stuff down to the water, it makes a big difference than when they sit in Berkeley or Oakland and answer the phone.
No, totally. No, I think that has to be something said for that. Except for if Steve Welch is in charge, because he liked doing that carry. He would just come down just to carry.
Oh no, Steve invented the boat cart.
I think that didn't show up until he was approaching 60. I think that was not in his younger years. Because
I would give Steve credit for the boat cart because it actually turned out to be better than my cable and pulleys.
The boat cart was a game changer. I will say that thing was outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, I think Oars was using the boat cart with a fully loaded cargo boat. It was just all 6 guides were just like brutally trying to get this thing down to the water loaded with cargo.
I've never seen this boat cart. And Marty, I maybe have seen your little wire thing a few times. I feel like we always just carried everything down by hand.
Well,
that was part of being a Tuolumne guide, is you had to be burly.
At one point, I believe, yeah. So the cart, I don't know, Zach, it was kind of like this.
I've never seen it.
It was kind of like goes up like this on the sides, and it has a bar around it, and then it's got 2 tires in the middle.
Oh, so it's like a bicycle, sort of.
The two are off of each opposite each other. It's like a wheelbarrow kind of with 2 of them in the middle. And then you could slide a cooler in it and run it down with the cooler in it, or you could put a raft on top of it.
Does anybody ever let go of it accidentally and it runs people over?
You could. It doesn't run that fast. You could walk a raft down by yourself. Though once you got the raft on top of it and it would fit between the rocks, you could just like. The only thing is it doesn't pack small, so it's not like ideal for private boaters. And it's the carts are big. So
I'm surprised you did, Aaron, because I feel like you were always the trip leader, and so you never had to go do the work.
That is true.
It's like you just theoretically know about the boat cart, but never actually have used it.
Well, I'd go down on some training trips every once in a while early in the season.
Okay, and have to do the work. I got some comments. Tom's
commenting.
What does that mean? Number 2. What does that mean?
Because Marty said he's like number 5.
Okay.
And Tom's like on number 2.
Yeah. What does that mean? Number 2.
Is Tom on the line here?
He's commenting.
He's commenting a couple places. Yeah.
Well, I'm more of a hot air balloon pilot. I'm not even sure what that refers to.
Versus a fighter pilot. Yeah.
Sean, the pins look center to me too, more center than back. But
what are you talking about? Which one?
I think we're talking about a few photos ago.
No, go back to that foot. No, they're not. They're back at center.
Hold on. Oops, I just messed up. Oh man. I gotta find the photos again.
Yeah, Zach struggles with his technology sometimes. Yeah. We just have to bear with him.
Well, it is
he's kind of he's getting on the gray side.
All right, I'll figure it out.
I'm trying to. So the screen I'm looking at just has a little teeny picture of what everybody else is looking at, and I don't. I have 4 screens in front of me, so it's
Wow.
I tried to get one of them. I tried to get what you're looking at, but then it got an echo, so sort of works. But if I'm looking,
Nah, he's running. He's
photo.
running. Here we go. He's running.
That looks pretty center to me.
No, Marty's got it back of center, don't you? Marty, do you have that? Where do you have that frame?
Back a little bit.
He's got it in the back just before it starts to rise in the back, basically.
You can see the wear marks from where he runs like a 2/3, like a paddle.
Yeah, the wear marks in the back are if you're doing a 4-load or a 6-load paddle.
So it's not all the way back. It's back a little bit.
It's back pretty far. It's back. The tie downs from the front of that frame are tied to the middle D-rings on the boat.
Sean, I agree with you. We can agree to disagree with these guys. Tom says Marty Mack is my hero. Marty Mack's
so this little online brown nosing by your son here.
Yeah.
Is he needing your help with something?
He
realizes he needs you to keep answering phones and helping him out because it's brutal running a business. Like a rafting business is not easy.
I'd like to say I taught Tom everything he knows, but he is actually teaching me how to do it.
Oh, yeah.
The new school is in many ways better than the old school, of course. He's taller than I am, has bigger wingspan, and he can relate to the newer guides better than I can, and passengers.
There you go. Yeah, totally agree, Sean.
Mm-hmm. Told me still a hard river, put it in, take out, and they're
I think the river is still challenging, but put in now. Come on, Tom. You just back the truck up and just push everything in. You don't even have to take out. You just and then drop it back on top. I think
the other thing is like the gear has gotten so much better. Like this raft, like compared to running an Avon, these nice Sotar rafts are pretty nice for running the river versus like all the old boats. I think one of the differences though is like people expect more stuff. And so I'm guessing like we never brought chairs on trips. I'm guessing chairs go on every trip now.
Oh yeah, chairs.
So it's like there's chairs now. Wow.
Oh yeah, I used to bring a chair for myself, but I never got to sit in it because there was always somebody more deserving. So now we just have 20 chairs.
I feel like guests are getting a little more soft. We're not soft, but we're just getting more used to comforts at home. So they're bringing more stuff. So gear boats are heavier. That's my guess. But also gear has improved a lot. Like rafts are better, dry bags are better, pumps are better. I don't know. Stuff is just better, so it makes things a little easier. So I bet that's a trade-off.
Okay, you got John Muir there. Is that John Muir?
Good on you. I was going to ask if anybody knew who that was.
There we go.
Okay, got it.
So Marty, let's go back to this original Cherry Creek run again.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. So from what you were saying, in the 70s, you weren't wearing life jackets because did you wear life jackets on Cherry Creek?
We were fish.
So you didn't wear a life jacket on the Cherry Creek trip?
Oh no, I wear life jackets there.
Always, every time.
Yeah. I think the life jacket, guys not wearing life jacket ended in the late 70s, early 80s, maybe, if not earlier. No, I was not stupid. I may have been foolish, but I wasn't an idiot.
And then I want to go back to your first run down the Tuolumne. So your raft run down the Tuolumne with Bryce was the original raft run down the Tuolumne, you think?
Well, yeah. There were 2 runs. Bryce and Don Segerstrom did a trip down the river, and then Bryce and I did the second trip, and then I kayaked it a bunch of times. And when Bryce did his first commercial trip, he was up in Oregon, and I led it. So I considered I did the first commercial trip and one of the first 2 exploratory trips. Oh. He scouted everything. Bryce was a fiend for scouting. I think he just liked it because it killed time on the trip. But we scouted Sunderland Chute every time. We scouted rapids on the Stanislaus. We scouted. We talk about them. Okay, this rock and go to the right side, and all this stuff. And but now that the Sotars, they're so slick that you don't wrap and as easily, and you can read and run. And also back in the day, there wasn't very many guides who had seen it for very many years. Now there's the senior guides who have been 4, 5, 6 years or 10, 12 years, so they can mother duck the other boats down the river.
Hey, separate question for you. How hard do you think Bedrock Rapid is on Grand Canyon?
Oh, Jesus.
I know you guys are stuck on this, but the only really good rapids, or not good, but the only exceptional rapids are Crystal and Lava. Everything else is pretty much, it doesn't require a lot of technical stuff.
Unless it's low water.
Oh, well, yeah, there is low water.
Because then Crystal gets way easier.
Yeah, but
and Bedrock gets way harder.
Yeah. All right. He's not gonna solve this one for us. He's gonna play it political. Let's go back around. Another thing I'm curious to hear about is you guys used to go past Ward's Ferry Bridge. You were saying.
Oh yeah, 5 miles down to Moccasin.
What was the stretch like from? I paddled it when the reservoir was low one year, but it was weird. It was all like these sandbars.
Yeah, all the sandbars filled in all the rapids.
Yeah, it's all weird. What was it like back before the reservoir filled?
Well, the first rapid below Ward's Ferry was a good class 4 plus.
Really?
But then there was no rapids of any consequence whatsoever much beyond that. But beautiful Sierra foothills. It was just meandering streams. Not that much elevation drop, but it was 5 miles more river. So if you're camped at North Fork, you're not just 2 miles to take out. It was a legitimate 3-day trip, whereas now
it's still a legitimate 3-day trip.
It's if you count the canyoneering of going up Clavey or the North Fork or going into the mine shaft or doing it. Yeah, it's a good I love 3-day trips, but the trend is if I can do it in a half a day, why do it in 3?
That's a good question. Could you do it in half a day? Could you run 2 half-day trips in one day?
Well, the water flow is tricky to do that. You could do 2 if it didn't shut off at 11 o'clock at the powerhouse. You could easily do Cherry Creek twice in a day.
Higher water. I mean,
that's more of a joke. Just because I've watched because it's mostly 1-day trips on the T right now, isn't it? On the main Tuolumne?
Oh, half. But when we did guide party trips in the springtime, we would camp at Clavey and do laps. We'd get up in the morning, run Clavey Falls, and go up and put in at Cherry Creek, and then raft down to Clavey and camp. So we had a base camp at Clavey, and would just do rotations.
Oh, that's awesome.
That sounds amazing.
Some people would just hang out at camp. Some, they bring in new supplies. Some people hike in down the trail. Some, would just kayak and do parts of it. But we'd do like a 5, 6, maybe even 7-day party. Made a bridge across the river with rafts, so you could camp on all 3 parts of the confluence. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
That's before permits.
Let's talk about Sierra Mac a little bit in the company. What year did you start Sierra Mac?
72. I was 22 years old. Bryce got divorced, left California, went up to Oregon, and sold me all of his rafts that he didn't want, and trucks that he didn't want, and pots and pans he didn't want. But he did reservations, so that's all I had to do is just run trips.
And for those of you who don't know, Bryce Whitmore is a legendary outfitter in his own right. What was his company called?
Wilderness Waterways, WWW. Okay. Just before the World Wide Web was coined. So Bryce was an innovator. He made a lot of boats parts like the thole pin that people clips and pins. He was the first guy to use clips and pins, and that's become kind of a standard for people who do technical whitewater. He also, his boats were 15-man life rafts, World War II surplus boats, these basket boats. He welded all of his own frames. Every frame, every oar was unique. So you had a clip and a pin, a clip and an oar that fit on just the right thole pin of one particular frame. Jeez. And so,
interesting.
But they were all cool, and and we, I was 15 and fearless and over 6 feet tall. But by the time he moved to Oregon, I could beat him in shuttle chess. At lunchtime, we would move rocks and sticks around as if they were trucks and buses and cars and things. And I could do it more efficiently than he could with Klamath, Rogue, and Stanislaus and Tuolumne. So he figured if I could do car logistics, I could probably run trips, run his business.
Did you buy just the Tuolumne part or the whole thing? Or more
initially, I just bought the Stanislaus and the Klamath and the there was no permits. It was just he just sold me.
Even on Tuolumne, this is pre-permit.
Yes, 73 was the first. 73, I think, was the first year of permits.
Okay.
And so when I bought his Stanislaus business, I ran Tuolumne trips in 73, and then in 70, so he ran Tuolumne trips and I ran Tuolumne trips, or they were kind of one and the same. And so when the Tuolumne went with permits, the 11 or 12 companies or so, he got a permit and I got a permit, and then the next year he sold me his Tuolumne permit or let me run it. And so Arda had 2 permits. John Vale had 2 permits. Among 12 companies, you can only do one start a day. You had a start every 13 days. It wasn't a viable permit, and so a lot of companies just signed up for a permit because it was free, and then they just they couldn't make any money or couldn't do any trips, so they sold it.
So you basically bought Bryce Whitmore's business out and ran the main Tuolumne. I'm guessing mostly 3-day trips in the 70s.
All 3 days. Yeah, 3 days. It was a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on the Tuolumne, Friday, Saturday on the Stanislaus, Sunday, Monday on the Stanislaus, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on the Tuolumne. I could do sometimes as much as 30 days in a row of boating.
That's amazing.
The Stan, isn't that just a 9-mile run?
Yeah, but it's beautiful 9 miles. All 2-day trips. It wasn't 1-day trips. Didn't really start happening until the late 70s.
Where would you camp on the Stan?
Well, there's about 9 classic camps. We camped right opposite the Flint Corporation. This limestone cliff, about a 1,000-foot cliff right across the river from us, just downstream of Rose Creek. So we'd pull into Rose Creek, stop above Death Rapid, have lunch, pull into Rose Creek, hike up. Rose Creek was a paradise of swimming holes. And so we'd stay there until late afternoon and then float on down to camp, which was about a mile or less below Rose Creek.
Have you floated it since post-dam at all?
Yeah, I did it. I actually started my business up again in the late 80s. When the reservoir dropped below Parrott's Ferry, and I took a powerboat up the canyon when it rimmed out the first time.
So Marty, I'm gonna go back to the business. So you did the Tuolumne, did the Stanislaus, added on Cherry Creek, and I know you've had other exploits along the way. You've done some other things. It sounds like you did Stanislaus trips again. What are some of your other exploits?
Exploits. Let's see.
Didn't you do Giant Gap for a while?
Oh yeah, I got the first. I had the first gap permit, and that was Giant Gap on the North Fork of the American. Is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, but it didn't have the reliability or the attraction that Cherry Creek had. Probably from the guide's point of view, the Giant Gap was a better trip.
Than Cherry Creek?
Well, better. It's certainly scenery. I mean, God, the water and the rocks.
Yeah.
And the Giant Gap is just unbelievably gorgeous. I don't think that matters. The Upper Tuolumne is beautiful, but people aren't looking at the
the scenery is not something you pay attention to on the creek.
No, the Giant Gap's more dramatic. It's more like that narrow canyon where you go through the narrow section of canyon, and it's
the whole experience.
Cherry Creek is beautiful, but Giant Gap is.
It's magical. It's spiritual.
Yeah. And I even say all the way down to Shirt Tail, all the way down to Yankee Jim Road. Even that upper part on Chamberlain section is it's really I mean, you can go anywhere in the world and you're not going to find a prettier stretch of river than that stretch through there.
No.
Yeah.
But for you to run Giant Gap, I mean, you're based in Sonora. That's like a 2.5 hour drive out there, hiking in 2 miles with the guests.
Yeah.
And a huge day. It's like whatever, 16 miles. And then you driving 2 hours back. That's an epic day to run Giant Gap.
Yeah, and the permit system got really weird. They required 3 trips before you could carry commercial passengers, and 1 or 2 familiarization trips before preceding the first trip of the season. And because of the snow issue,
It's almost impossible.
You couldn't do it, and then you'd get weak. You have like 6 weeks of bookings. And the first 1, 2, or 3 trips got canceled because of snow or high water or low water. And then you have to do 2 training trips. You just couldn't do it. It was impossible. And Whitewater Voyages had the other permit, and they quit doing it too. It just wasn't a practical thing.
So nobody does it now. Those permits are just like nobody even has those permits anymore.
That's I understand. Nobody does it legally. There's a few pirates.
Yeah, but you just turned yours in. You're like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm just turning my permit in. Like, it's too much of a pain.
It was sad because I think it is such a magical spiritual place. It was a privilege to be getting a permit and to run there was pretty good. Yeah. I have done some other things. I ran a teen center during the drought of 87, 88, 89. That was pretty exciting. Dealing with the sort of dark era of goth teenage world. And then I raised 3 kids and was married for 25 years to the mother of my children. And then I've had 2 or 3 other wives that have been entertaining, and I'm married to my high school sweetheart now. That's very nice. And Sybil and I have been together, reunited 10 years ago, and we travel and go to Cuba, South America, Central America, Mexico. I really like traveling to the Latin American cultures.
Do you speak Spanish?
Warum nicht? That's German.
Yeah. So now I feel like you said earlier, like you're passing your business on to Tom. What does Sierra Mac look like now?
Awesome. I'm really happy with like we've learned how to use the wheel. Back in the day, it was all back work, and there's a lot of innovations with tables and stoves, and I've got the ideal warehouse. I looked at the warehouses in Flagstaff and other places around the West Coast, and I bought 20 acres of land right overlooking the South Fork, Middle Fork of the Tuolumne confluence. I look out and see the entire upper watershed of the Tuolumne River, and so we're making a campground here for our clients and hip campers. That's sort of another enterprise that we're doing that's working out pretty well. But the innovation of boats, the Sotars are still the best boats on the water by far. They outperform anything else in the world of commercial boats, and so we play with them. They do have some manufacturing issues, but the design is really good. What else is there? Probably Tom would have 4 or 5 things to say about what has come to the table in the last 10 years. But be nice if we could find some 10-foot oars, nice thick shaft oars. The plastic shafts and alternatives for oars are sort of sucky. That has gone downhill.
Marty, I mean, I could go on about this forever. I've switched over from wood oars to the Sawyer MXG, but you have to ask them for extra duty everything.
Yeah, Sawyer is just making oars for the Rogue River boaters, and you just don't need to have technical equipment for the Rogue.
Well, I've used these oars a lot of difficult places, so I'm convinced that the ore that I get from Sawyer, the MXG extra duty everything would work on the Tuolumne. I'm convinced you would love this ore. And maybe you tried it, but I'm just convinced.
I'm right. I'm making notes here, Zach. So
call Sawyer and just talk to Zach Kaufman and say, hey, I want the Zach Collier special. It's the extra duty everything. That's what you want. And
you get whatever length you want.
Yeah, they'll make them exactly the length. They'll make. So Tom just wrote 9 foot 3 inch ores. You can get 9 foot 3 inch ores. They'll make them exactly the length you want.
Is that with the dynamite blades?
Yeah, but get it. You want extra duty everything. So get the dynamite blades. Everything. They'll put extra layers of carbon on it, and they'll put a wrap around the outside.
Well, we'll get 6 of them right away, and but I still like having a wooden shaft. The way a thick wood shaft holds onto the current is way better than a fiberglass tube.
The flex, everything totally.
I'm gonna disagree with you guys because I'm a wood ore guy. Like I am, but I'm just like it's different. That's all I'm gonna say. It's different. But Marty,
it doesn't have the nice.
I have like 20 wooden ores in front of my house right now. I'm selling.
There you go, Marty.
The big old thick ones. So we'll talk.
Well, afterwards, if we're done, call me up. Well, I'll come get them.
They're all spinnies though. They're all rope wraps. So if you want to do you got to take the rope wraps off.
Cut those off.
Yeah.
I know how to make a clip on a spinny ore.
But I've completely switched over. I've got a bunch of 10s and 11s. We can talk about. I'll send you guys photos of the ores.
Marty, don't you still have a bunch of those 13-foot ores you bought back in like 1969 or whatever?
Yeah, they're like 16-foot ores. Actually, Bryce got them from a warehouse in Oakland in the 60s for $2 a piece. Or actually, he got them for $1 a piece and sold them for $2, doubled his money. And the guy that had the warehouse would pay for shipping. And they're very popular in the Grand Canyon for the big baloney boat with ore rigs. They're beautiful ores. I still have about 6 of them. They have that nice taper, thick shank all the way down to the throat, and then that sort of V-shaped blade that has a rib that goes down all the full length of the blade. It's really nice.
Marty, do you still have those ores from Kenny? Those Blunt family ores?
Yeah. Okay. Kenny made me 2 sets, one for Ab and one for me.
Do you like them?
They're a little too lightweight. I need more meat. Kenny made them so they were balanced and and they're just kind of like these featherweights. I like them.
I'll trade you some for some. Those blunt ores are pretty sweet.
Kenny made me 2 sets, and they're just more for a private boater. For a commercial load, when you clunk onto a rock or something, you need more boost.
I agree. I think on the T, when you're running a big heavy gear boat, because Aaron can't relate because Aaron doesn't run big heavy gear boats. But for you and I who like a big heavy, Aaron's sitting in the bottom of his paddle boat, peeking over the tube, yelling commands. But for those of us like big heavy gear boats, we have to smash the oar into a rock to spin the boat.
You guys would smash the oars. I would just pivot off the rock.
No, well, your boat's half the weight ours.
Oh, finesse.
You had those like light little Arta boats with all your carbon fiber parts. Marty and I carried our stuff down by hand, and we were bodybuilding, and had our boats weighed twice what yours weighed.
I think Marty used to bring ceramic. Did you bring ceramic mugs on your trips, Marty? Yeah, you used to bring those on the trips, didn't you?
Yeah, Aaron, you can't row that. You take a boat like Marty has, you'd still be stuck at Rock Garden.
Oh, I just remember looking at those gear boats.
I like low water heavy. That technical stuff through low water is cool.
So I think in that case, like a big heavy gear boat at low water on the T, you definitely want wood oars. But the Sawyers would work. They'd get beat up a little bit. They would. I've done some like low water Illinois trips with the carbon fiber oars, and it's similar to low water T, and I think they work great. What do we got there, Marty? Yeah, classic. Yeah.
But then.
Yep.
Oh, the blade is a little short.
Yeah, is that because you let Aaron use that on a trip?
Probably. I have broken a few of his. I have broken a few of Marty's oars.
Is that a Clavey or a Sawyer?
This is Clavey gets their oars from Sawyer.
From Sawyer, yeah. The Clavey diameter was perfect.
Yeah. They the heavy ones. The Sawyer doesn't make the thick shanks anymore.
I've got some. I have a few of them out here.
They won't do it because they make 20 at a time and nobody wants them because they put counterweights in the handle so they don't have to they're lazy.
Yeah, people
Really?
think they want counterbalance doors for some reason out there.
We got some more comments. We got to go back up there.
All right, we got to see. Hold on, before we do, let's get to all of Marty's toys
What do you
here.
got
What do we
there?
got here, Marty?
Okay, this is the proverbial square. Let's see if I can get this in there. Can you see the square?
Yep, square hole.
Square hole, square peg, square hole. In any case, square peg, square hole. It's a metaphor for a lot of things. It doesn't work. It's like a square peg in a round hole.
Mm-hmm.
So my mantra piece is a square peg in a square hole. This is my Aston Martin, named after me. My real name is Martin, and then this is my model for how I get to. Oops, wrong way here.
You got to raise it up a little higher. Oh, nice.
So, and then this is not a kayak. This is a kazoo.
Hey, Marty, do you bring that in your life jacket as your?
Oh yeah. Well, no, I have a.
Oh,
I don't
that's
need
nice.
anything. I just, as long as I don't have water in my mouth, I can whistle.
Yeah.
I wish I could whistle like that.
Yeah.
You
Then
can learn, watch YouTube. You can learn anything on YouTube.
Yeah.
yeah. I thought we were going to talk to them about equipment because I'm a gearhead. I'd love innovations of equipment.
Let's go through comments and we'll get to equipment real quick. Sean's asking, did you ever run the Clavey or North Fork of the Tuolumne back in the day?
The Clavey from God's Bath down to the confluence. I just did that once to try to. It was more of a political trip to stop a dam that was being proposed on the Clavey. So we would prove that. I actually got a permit to run clients down the Clavey River from Cottonwood Road down to the Clavey confluence because it was valuable as a political tag to say,
there's recreation in
best
there.
whitewater. And then Bob Stanley broke his leg. So doing it and that kind of it's just a really technical thing for rafts, and it's hard to know what the water level is going to be like. And North Fork of the Tuolumne, I didn't do that. I don't really know of anybody that has. I think it's been done, but
yeah, there's some of us. Yeah,
the South Fork of the Tuolumne has from above Rainbow Pool has done quite a bit. Below Rainbow Pool, it goes through the Cascades, and that would really be any 100-yard section would probably be a dream come true for a Class 6 boater. But
it's been kayaked. That section below the Cascades has been kayaked, but it was by one of the best kayakers in the world.
Yeah, it'd be a dangerous place to go for even the best. So, but
Marty, outside of we've talked about the normal runs. We've talked about on the Tuolumne, is there anything else that you felt was really memorable sections that you've run outside of what we've discussed so far?
Well, I used to run the creeks of Marin County in high water. I did Muir Woods in high water, and I grew up in Mill Valley, and so and I had access to my mother's car in the teacher's parking lot, so I could leave at noon, where the other students had their cars locked up. I had a kayak or two on top of my car, and my mother would stay at school till 5, so I had from noon to 5 to go boating. And the floodwater creeks of Marin are awesome. You go through like 8-foot diameter culverts. That the only light you have is like from the drains from the gutters up above.
Wow.
So those are pretty memorable. And then I did some coastal trips that had a lot of exposure along the Marin headlands. Let's see. There's some. We did.
Have you done anything on the upper stretches of the Tuolumne or Cherry Creek above? Have you done anything above the commercial Cherry Creek run, like below the dam?
Yeah, I did from Hetch Hetchy Dam down to early intake. It's like 20 miles of portages.
Portages.
Yeah, it was like fish flow of 250 CFS, and I think Bill Center and did one trip up there, but it's not commonly done.
How was that?
What's that?
How was that?
Oh, probably one of the most beautiful trips I've ever done. like
Really?
the river has it's vertical granite domes that come right down to the water's edge, and then you boat around these domes, and you can almost like reach out and touch both sides sometimes with your hands. Very
Wow.
narrow section of river, and
Really?
yeah, but the Pupinau Valley is the first like 3-4 miles of the trip is the Pupinau Valley, which was probably one of the most interesting Miwok Indian Native American sites right below O'Shaughnessy Dam. Hetchetchee Valley, of course, is now underwater. Was well known for being one of the best archaeological sites in California. It was drowned by O'Shaughnessy Dam. But below that is the Pupinau Valley, and there's just unbelievable amount of artifacts and from what the Native Americans left behind. But then when you get below the Pupinau Valley, there's a big waterfall coming in on the left, and then you're just in like through this very narrow granite dome section for about 6, 7, 8 miles, and then you get below Camp Mather, and there's Preston Falls, which is kind of an impressive waterfall. And then it's about 6 miles or 5 miles from there down to early intake.
Zach,
Really
did we carry kayaks up to Preston Falls once?
No, I've never done that. I've only heard this section. Marty told me he did this like 15 years ago, and I asked him about it. That's the only person I've ever known to paddle this section. Didn't you do it in a ducky or an air mattress or something?
It was a little Zodiac, small two-person Zodiac by myself.
And you were by yourself, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I was by myself in the boat. I had an ethafoam floor, so it was not a self-bailer. And then the other two guys I was with, they were in like little Tahitis. The trick there was being able to portage, and the Zodiac material is really tough. And so I could carry or drag my boat and my pack in one movement. Where those guys had these little orange torpedoes, Tahiti things that in one little stick hit it, it'll blow a hole on the side. So they had to be very careful on the portages.
How many days did it take?
We planned for 3, and it took 4.5, almost 5.
To go like 12 miles?
I think it's more like around 23 miles.
I want to do this trip. This has been on my radar for a long time.
Really is.
And you can do it all summer, right? Because it's just low flow out of O'Shaughnessy Dam.
Yeah, I mean, only reason you have a boat is to float through the flat stretches, and there are some really interesting little micromanagement moves for duckies, but it's.
I don't mind that. I love portaging.
Yeah, well, no, I had a kayak paddle and a little like small, 6-foot big tube dinghy.
That sounds like a killer trip.
It was awesome.
Let's go through some comments and talk about gear. I'm excited to talk about gear because it's called Gear Garage. First of all, Casey, I'm glad you like it. We'll try to have more guests. We are always trying. It's just sometimes hard to coordinate with them. Marty, you're getting a lot of props here. People love the show. And Marty, Becky's asking, what is your number one thing or activity that makes a river trip great?
Well, the first word that came to mind was water. And then the second word would be rocks. I really like the remoteness. When you go through a rapid and you're navigating whitewater, it brings you into the present like nothing else. You don't worry about taxes or the argument you had with somebody. It brings you into the now. This is it. This is now, and you're in the present like nothing else brings you to the present like a gravity sport, like downhill skiing or sailing. But whitewater boating is the swirly water with your oars in the water brings you into the really nice synchronicity with gravity.
And what's your number one pet peeve on the river?
Other people. I like people, but I just.
That's funny. That was the answer. My number one. My answer was my favorite thing would be the people I'm with. That was my answer number one.
Yeah. I mean, people. You said pet. Was it pet peeve? Was the
pet
word?
peeve? What's your number one pet peeve?
Well, it's not just a person. I'd say a particular person.
Oh, got it.
That just is loud and obnoxious and demanding and not happy and unhappy, loud, drunk person is, that's not so much. That kind of dominates the energy field.
Yeah, they're not people that aren't mindful of where they are and present. We're taking everyone away from being present. And yeah. Marty, I like your answer a lot to the first question. It's definitely true. That is what keeps me. I mean, flat water is nice, but running rapids is a whole nother ballgame. Just like you said, being present. That's a great point. Yeah. So we've talked about some gear now.
Yeah, what's this innovation in gear, Marty? Do you have a new way to attach oars to boats?
Well, I mean, oars to boats. You mean like oar locks versus pins?
Yeah, or do you have a third version? There's oar locks, pins, and clips. Do you have a Marty version?
Well, yeah, it sounds like you. Go ahead. Yeah.
Let's see. This is the traditional.
Yep. Ball on top, the way it should be, huh, Aaron?
Marty, do you prefer the screw-on ball or do you prefer the rubber top?
I just like my balls to stay on top of the pin. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah, to me, the screw-on is just as long as it stays there. This is probably a little too much play. It can be shorter. I like downriver equipment makes these things that just slide into the deal here. These towers are my favorite.
Yeah.
To other things.
Oh, this is like show and tell.
These are two oar locks. This is the Cobra, and this is the standard one.
Marty, have you seen the Canyon oar lock?
Maybe. And then I made my own personal oar lock. So when I went to South America, I made one that was a ring that rotated on like a gyroscope. So it had a ring lock as opposed to the U-shaped thing.
Why did you stop using those?
The hassle, and it didn't work as well as pins and locks. Pins gives you a fixed point. You're always 90 degrees to the water, which finesse time, oar locks are clearly better because you can always be playing with the currents. But in the crunch times, when you want 100% energy into holding your pitch, this part is worthless.
Yeah.
Or not worthless, but this is not where your muscles are, not in your fingers. Your muscles are your arms and legs and the river. And so being able to rotate your oars like this is nice in the wind if you're going down in the Grand Canyon, to be able to feather your blade and whip through the water, or the Rogue. But if you're doing the Tuolumne or Cherry Creek, oar locks are good, better maybe 50 or 60% of the time, but the times that they're not as good, they really suck. And enough said about that, I think.
Do you guys run any locks on your rigs for CRMAC? Do you run
they do. Some guides who are sort of wedded to locks, they don't know how to run pins, so they take the pins out and they put one of those oar locks in.
You have guys who work for you, guides who work for you that do that.
Rarely, but they do. Some come from like Oars runs oar locks, I think, and occasionally we hire an oars guide, and they really like to have their locks. That's the thing.
When was the last time you had a Cherry Creek guide who ran locks?
Cherry Creek with locks? Never commercially.
Okay. There's a couple of the Voyages guides used to run locks up there.
Voyages did locks, yeah, but they were relatively primitive.
I like how you talk about pins and clips as how this is like this new invention.
It is a new invention, Aaron.
Oh yeah, well, see, the gondoliers in Italy used just two rods, and the oar would stick between the two rods, and they would just fish it between the two posts. That was the traditional oar locks for hundreds, thousands of years, and then the traditional oar lock that we were looking at, that's more like for rowboats, like if you're rowing from your sailboat in a dinghy to the dock, or if you're in a lifeboat where you're out in the ocean, an oar lock is way better than a pin. because you can.
But otherwise, pins and clips, sounds like you're still.
Oh yeah, if you're using Orlocks on Class 4, it's like running with your shoes untied.
I would agree.
So, have you seen any major gear changes in the last 10 years that you've noticed with your stuff that you guys are doing different now than you were like back when I was working for you guys?
I'm only a Tuolumne guy. I don't,
that's what I mean for the Tuolumne stuff.
So I'd say that the boat ramps are huge. Being able to, so now what that revolutionizes, the best way to show up at a launch point is with your boat already inflated and rigged. And so, which is what the Colorado guys
trailers.
do. In Colorado, everybody has a trailer, their boat's on the trailer, it's all rigged. They have a cement boat ramp that goes right down into the river. See, Colorado, the lotto tickets all go to open space. And so they have money for boat ramps. And so everybody has their raft on a trailer. And you just drive right up to the river and launch and you tend to get takeout. But in California, where it's not so intelligent, until they built these boat ramps at Merrill's Pool and up at Cherry Creek, now it revolutionized our trucks, and now we have trucks and trailers, whereas before we had to roll the boats up and put them out of the sun, and then it was a lot harder on the boats and harder on the guides.
So what I'm hearing is you can have softer guides now.
Yeah,
it's revolutionized because guides can be softer.
I think
Aaron, you would really thrive in this day and age.
It sounds amazing. Yeah.
I don't know about being softer. I think because I think of our crew as I wouldn't say any of them are soft like you're talking about, Aaron. I think they don't like having to brutalize themselves, loading and unloading boats and rolling things up unnecessarily. If you can keep your boat inflated all the time, that's a way more intelligent way to do put-ins and takeouts. And so now my boom truck, all it does is lift the boat up, set it on a trailer, and it drives back home. So we're takes more vehicles, but that is huge. It revolutionized our put-ins and takeouts and cut the ugly time of doing river trips was way minimized. As far as the river goes, I don't know, but like just miscellaneous equipment like stoves and tables have been nicely advanced. Aluminum.
Do you see them doing anything for the takeout on the Tuolumne to make it more accessible for private boaters?
Oh, absolutely. I've been working on that for 40 years, and success is actually in the pipe.
Really?
Yeah. I was rowing the Tuolumne River over 50 years ago, and that was before Don Pedro Dam was built. And in 50 years, the dam has to be relicensed. And in the relicensing process through the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, they require them to resolve any of the bad things that the reservoir created during its lifetime of 50 years, which Ward's Ferry is a very bad thing that it did. And so they actually are going to put in somewhere like around $43 million to build a nice takeout at Ward's Ferry. They're going to build essentially a boat ramp and a dock down by the water that'll be usable at different water elevations. And this is the result of the American Whitewater. Teresa and those folks have been very good players. The Forest Service has been a good player. And the BLM has land underneath Ward's Ferry Bridge. So they have come in very strong, saying that they have abused the BLM land. And so they want to have a boat ramp down to Ward's Ferry. It's going to happen. Money has been allocated. It's been signed off and approved by FERC and by the irrigation districts in San Francisco that own the reservoir. So it may not happen in my lifetime, but the relicensing process is being held up because when they built Don Pedro Dam, they didn't build a fish ladder because of the dam downstream didn't have one. But now, because the dam downstream got a new powerhouse, they required them to have fish passage around that LaGrange Dam, the lower dam, and now they have to build fish passage around Don Pedro. And to do that, it's not a solvable problem. You can't fix that. And it's certainly not cheap. And even an expensive fix won't fix it. So the fish get to the other side of the dam and they can't find Ward's Ferry Bridge.
So they just go on without a license, because I feel like it's been 10 years that this process has been going on.
It's been going on for 5. They're in arrears about 3 to 5 years. But because it's thrown in the Lagrange, has been lumped into the same relicensing process. It'll be in the courts for quite a while until they figure out fish passage. But they've essentially allocated $43 million to build a takeout of Wards Ferry, which they would rather just buy us off than do that. But they'll have to do that. And,
I mean, that would change the usage on the Tuolumne dramatically.
Yeah. The reason,
like you talked about the put-in ramp is huge, but to have, like, particularly for private boats, just to be able to like roll up and then your cost as an outfitter, that'd be really nice too. Just like, you don't have to deal with the crane anymore. Oh my goodness.
No.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. $43 million though.
It may be less. It's whatever. Maybe 30. I can't remember. It might be 30. So here's the better throw bag, built by Martin Zamitas. Sling.
How long did Martin build? Martin Zamitas.
Martin Zamitas built this. This is a copy of what he made for me like 30 years ago. But it's got. I saw your video last week about throw bags, and he this is a very bomber attachment.
Yeah,
and it has real rope inside, not
that's static line.
Shock cord. This is static line, and I consider this to be one of the more important parts about running river trips is being able to successfully throw these. And every year we have a summer party in August where we have competition for throw bag contest. And I would publicly challenge anyone who could make a 35-foot goalpost 3 times consecutively, or more times than I can. I'll wager $100 that I'll beat them every time, except for those that have beat me in the past.
Except for them, everybody else. Well, Marty, I've been practicing my throw bags a lot. I'm feeling like I want to come challenge you.
Go for it. I have the put a rowing frame on a boat. There's your goalpost. 36 feet away.
Easier now.
You stand. Well, that's it for the first timers.
People are getting soft. That's what I'm saying.
We can do 50 feet.
Well, you used to have to get it through a donut of an old tire. It was
we used to go through a circle. That was brutal.
That was rough.
Yeah, that's back when guys were tough.
And Marty used to go out and destroy us. It was embarrassing. He'd bring his. I think your old version of that bag was a blue bag. Is that right, Marty?
Green. It was green. But then we outlaw like these little nylon bags that kayakers use, or the bag.
Why is it outlawed?
Well, because you can't do a load with that. That's just a little shoestring.
Yeah, but you can get the rope to something, and then you can get the static line by pulling it over.
Yeah. Every boat should have a throw bag that can winch a boat off, or help set up a Z rig. How many static lines do you have on a trip?
So Marty, I want to go. Yeah, that before we talk about that, Marty, how much did you use to practice before the party?
None.
You didn't. Oh, come on.
How'd you get so good?
You were not off the couch and you beaten all of us.
How'd you get so good?
He beat us off the couch. It was so
I'm inherently good. I think in a past life I used to sling rocks and kill Goliath.
And he would go out there and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to put the money back out. Let somebody else win it." You'd be like,
thanks, Aaron. I'm glad you remembered those days because I'm not as good.
It was like a little poke, Yeah.
Like I beat you, but I want to get somebody to take the money anyway.
Yeah, I beat you. I won the money back, but I'm going to put it out again. Why don't you guys try again? And I'm not going to play this stuff so somebody can win it.
Well, thank you, Marty. I appreciate you tooting my horn. That's good.
Yeah, well, I did. It was annoying, Marty, because I was like, we're on the river all summer. We should be able to beat this guy. Jeff Hall used to drive us crazy, and Adam. We were like, come on, we got to beat this guy. Marty can't beat us. He's the office guy.
I have throw bags down. Now I didn't win. I came in second on this last August, but I start losing when we move the goalposts into the 50-foot range. I can get it like 50% of the time when it's over 50 feet, but 36 feet I can do it almost 100% of the time.
You were really consistent. That's what amazed me. It's just you had a really consistent touch on it.
If people want to buy a throw bag.
Yeah, so I challenge all those who are listening. If you want to have a throw bag challenge for $100, have at it.
Marty,
Come visit Marty.
If people want to buy that throw bag, how can they buy one? Are they for sale?
No,
So there's just one of them, and you have it.
that's right.
Okay.
Hey, Zach,
Our standard bags are the NRS bags, the commercial NRS bags, and they're fine.
They're fine as giving them too much credit.
Well, but Marty likes them for the reason you like them. He likes
they have a good rope.
It's have a really good rope in them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the cheat on mine, which I shouldn't tell you because it's not this rope is
I have some of that rope.
This is a static rope.
That's real static line.
It's soft, and most static ropes are more brittle and rigid. Mm-hmm. And so if you put like the orange ropes that come with the NRS bags, when you coil them up inside of a bag, and they pay out, they stay coiled for quite a long time.
This is the rope. That same rope that's in the NRS bags. The Sterling water line.
Yeah, that's a great rope, but it doesn't have the suppleness that this one has. So it's a little bit of an unfair advantage that I have using this particular bag. But that's so be it. I'm 72, so I have some.
A little history though. Zach Martin Samitis, who built that bag, he was the water coordinator at UC Davis, like a generation before us. Yeah.
Martin is an outstanding innovator. He builds like Himalayan tents, below zero tents, and he builds them in a shop in Berkeley. And he's done Cherry Creek with us a few times.
Fabric look. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
What about the fabric?
Oh, the fabric looks like Dyneema.
Yeah, it's some sort of weird fabric, and it's
it looks like the same thing they make the air duckies out of. That like green Dyneema.
Oh yeah.
It's like ultralight material.
Yeah, it's ultralight material, very tough.
Yep.
Did Martin make that one for you? Who made that one for you?
Martin made this one because the bag he made before was just a regular nylon bag, and it wore out. And
that's a sweet material for throw bags.
That's custom. That's a custom bag right there. That's not something anyone can go get done, huh? He doesn't sell.
Yeah, if you want something, you can get it. You know, it's not off the shelf. You have to order it. You know,
order from who?
From Martin.
I think you could probably get Martin to build you one, but you know, it's a one-off thing. It's not like it's a Xerox machine.
Well, I don't know, Martin. Do I just call him? Do you give me his number and I'll just call him and say make me a throw bag?
His business is called Slingfin, SLING, capital FLIN, mostly he sells high-end mountaineering tents. Yeah, he makes tents. Cool. The best tents ever.
I can call Slingfin and say I want a throw bag like Marty's.
Wasn't he one of Marty? Didn't he help found like Mountain Hardware or something like that back in the day?
Yeah, he was working for North Face, and they gave him. He had a falling out with them, so he started his own company.
Here's their website. Looks like they make some pretty cool stuff. Their tents look cool.
Yeah, he is cool.
All right, Marty, what's this other doodad you had for us?
Oh yeah, so this is called. I don't know if you know what an in-reach is.
Yeah,
this is what comes off the shelf now.
Oh yeah,
but this guy, what's his name, Carson who designed him. I helped him put this together. This is just 3 carabiners.
What is that in the middle?
Is that a pine cone?
No.
A bunch of resin.
Okay, it looks like. What's that stuff called?
This is a cool thing. Although it's you can throw this.
It's called a cross reach.
Yeah, cross reach.
Cross reach. Yeah,
cross reach. You throw this. It'll clip onto branches of trees, or if you throw it across a raft and drag it across the raft, it'll clip onto anything that's,
any dangerous ropes. It'll just clip onto them.
Yeah, or a person underwater. A person stuck in a kayak, you can. It's like an instant grappling hook that doesn't have sharp points.
But your other one, the one you built with like JB Weld, that would be a great use for old carabiners. Because you got some unlocking carabiners, you can just take some JB Weld and make your own, huh?
You could make this was kind of fussy, but they're sort of expensive. I mean, clearly, I think NRS sells these. Tom has been getting these. These are really, this is the best locking carabiner. They're cheap.
Yeah, that's your favorite.
They're relatively inexpensive, and they're you can do. The idea is you can use with one hand. You can open and close the gate.
Oh, okay.
So the gate, this you see how I can just rotate it and it locks in place. So
wait, you can't do that with other carabiners?
Yeah. Otherwise, you have to sit there and twist, twist, and it comes off the sleeve. This is an instant one, and they are the other ones are a lot more expensive. I think NRS got some sort of deal from probably China to get these guys, and I really like these. I give them. You said something earlier. Maybe the outfitters don't give their guides carabiners. We do.
Aaron said that.
Years.
Aaron seems to think the outfitters supply guides with their own carabiners.
Yeah. So
wait, what did I say?
Last show, you made some comment about outfitters not giving guides carabiners.
No, you expect us to get our own.
See, well, you should have your own equipment, but outfitters should pay their guides more so they can get better equipment.
Thanks, Marty.
Hey, slow down, Marty. Slow down on that topic.
Well, guides are worth a lot more than they get paid. There's just too many. It's a very labor-intensive business. This is a carabiner you can't get anymore, I don't think, but kayakers like it because they can put it
the bent gate.
Put their to put their paddle through there.
Yeah.
These are great little lightweight pulleys. And then this is if you like to play tetherball. This is a steel carabiner, which is what you should not have on your life jacket.
Because it's steel or because it's non-locking?
Both. Heavy and non-locking.
Marty, do you use any non-locking carabiners when you're on the river?
It's a mistake if I have one on my rig.
Okay.
I used to be on the search and rescue team in the 70s, and I paid a lot of attention to fatalities in the river community, and especially guide fatalities. And when I was in my mid-20s, there was 3 very significant guide fatalities up in Idaho and on the Grand Canyon. All 3 of them were rope entrapment. So having a rope around your waist, like this little fanny pack that you showed last week, that's the last thing I would want on my body is a 100-foot rope. What you want is
that's a waist throw bag that's like tied around your waist.
Well, but it's a death trap. What you want to have is something to cut yourself loose or cut somebody else loose. This is the only guys put all this crap on their life jacket. What you were talking about earlier in this show.
Yeah.
When you see a guide that has 5 carabiners, 2 pulleys, 3 different knives, a can opener, all this. It's all you really should have is relatively easy access. This is not easy access, but it's the only access I have on my life jacket. Is this guy is cool. It opens up. You have a saw and a hook. So if you want to take somebody's clothes off really fast, you can go up around their neck and cut their life jacket.
Don't put that
off.
knife by your neck.
No, it's not a knife. It's a hook.
Okay.
That's what you don't want to have is a sharp pointed knife. This is a screwdriver tip on this part.
Okay.
Marty, have you used that to cut rope?
Yeah, let's
I use it to cut rope. And I have one guide save in my life where I saved his life, and it was because I had this on my.
Hold on, that exact knife, or
not this
knife?
Exact one, a previous version of this.
Okay.
So you're a big fan of the hook. Have we tested out that knife?
I think you need to have. Well, you need to have 2. You have to have a pointy one in case your passenger or you are stuck between the rowing frame and an inflated boat. Like when the boat goes through a big wave or a hole and it folds up and it makes like a little V. The frame and the boat folds. And if a person gets stuck between the frame and the boat, and the boat flips over, that's when you want to be able to take your pointing knife and slice open the boat. The death at Clavey was.
Yeah, that's the one example I can think of a pointing knife. Wait, do you carry a pointy knife and a not pointy knife?
Oh yeah. If somebody calls you a sissy, you don't want a hook knife.
That's for sure. I have to agree with that.
And so
I just like to see you cut a piece of rope with that knife because I don't believe that knife can cut rope.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Give me a rope around.
I could cut your communications off here pretty quick. Yeah, I agree with you. You know, you have to. This is a gnarly. See if I can get the.
Yep.
It's a very gnarly saw blade.
Okay.
And the other problem with the hook knife is the rope builds up on the inside of the hook. But if you do this, you put the lanyard through your wrist. So that after you cut the thing, then you can deal with your hands and drop the knife. And what you have is something floating around that's not too dangerous.
But once you cut the rope, if it doesn't actually cut the rope, you then have the hook on the rope.
No, I don't think so. I haven't used it that much. I used to train guides. We'd put a life jacket on a rowing frame and tip the boat upside down, and they had to swim underneath the boat, cut the life jacket off, and come out the other side with the life jacket before they ran out of air.
Okay, Marty, hold on. You say you used to do this when you train guides?
Yeah.
But you don't anymore.
No.
Why not? Why don't you do it anymore?
I suppose it's a valuable thing to do, but
yeah.
We used to have like guide Olympics, and that was one of the Olympic challenges was who could get the life jacket off the clip from underneath the boat the fastest.
There you go, Zach. We
like
just been talking about a guide Olympics.
I mean, the only thing is it can get expensive fast because life jackets are expensive. Once somebody cuts it,
well, it's not all the old ones that you want to throw away.
The garbage can gets filled with these things. So that, or you can just swim under the boat and unbuckle the life jacket.
I like that.
There you go.
I like
but
that.
Using the hook knife under the boat, it's dark and you can't see.
Yeah.
So you don't know whether you're cutting a person or a life jacket or
you could just tie it on with a piece of rope though, and then you could have to use your knife. Sorry, Marty.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think also very few guides carry hook knives. It's not a common thing.
I'm not a fan. I'd like to see you cut rope with that. Don't cut the communications like real rope with that knife.
I don't have any.
It doesn't seem like he has any.
I'll mail you
Everything is a value in that room.
I'll mail you some rope.
Let's see. Oh, here I got this one here. This is another show and tell. I have a treasure wall of failures that are notable failures.
Okay.
And I'll go through that. So here's the first one. This is a 2-inch wide 4-foot NRS thing. Now the other end is here. If you can see,
you can see that.
Mark, that thing looks old. Marty, it looks like that thing looks old and worn. Like that looks
but it failed, man. I see guys like really wail on these things, thinking that they'll never break. This broke and sent the guide off the side of the truck and almost went off the edge of Wards Ferry Bridge.
Oh, that's that one.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Marty, we're trying to get NRS as a sponsor for the show. So when you show NRS stuff breaking, that doesn't help us.
Oh, well.
He's been pretty positive with NRS.
Oh, I love NRS. I still buy new straps. I would not throw them under the bus.
Okay.
I was going to run I was going to do an NRS type business back in the early 70s. I don't want to sell stuff. I want to do river trips. And then just for a quick show and tell here, this hangs on my wall. There's several things happening here. This is a manifest for a trip that was not good.
You mean the manifest wasn't good, or the trip wasn't good?
The trip was bad.
You probably shouldn't show all the names.
No,
it's privacy information.
Yeah,
other social security numbers there too.
Well, you can't really read it. I don't think so. But then there's this is a you know what this is?
Yeah, to plug the lights in for a trailer.
Yeah, so if it falls out and drags on the road, it makes a bad thing there.
Yeah.
Then this is a lug nut that fell off, as well as all the other 7 lug nuts on the back of the truck because they were old. And then this
all the lug nuts fell off at the same time.
Yeah, on Wards Ferry Bridge on Priscilla, our boom truck. This is a fan belt. See,
Fan
if
belt,
you
yeah.
check your fan belts periodically, you don't have it blow up on you when you're on World's Ferry.
Yeah.
Are these reminders of you to make sure to do stuff? So
Is this
it
shit
doesn't
stuff
happen again?
that broke?
Shit happens. Yeah, these are things that broke.
Yeah.
This part here is a brake line that was rubbing against the frame, and unbeknownst to me, all the brake fluid drained out while I was driving to Wards Ferry Bridge.
Yeah. Oh, these are all things that are broken on Wards Ferry Bridge.
Well,
This is the Wards Ferry Bridge thing.
Well, see, there might be something else. Oh, yeah, there's another thing here. This is my. You know what this is?
Yeah, I can't see. What is that?
Is that an iPhone charger plug-in?
That's an earbud.
It's a very big earbud.
No, it's a flat one that got driven over by a truck.
Oh.
It fell out of my ear when
On the Wards Ferry Bridge?
On Wards Ferry Bridge, yeah. It's just sort of a unique. Then there's this guy.
Marty, you're lucky to be alive after all the time you've spent on the Wards Ferry Bridge.
And this I found. I got a flat tire. And this came out. Can you fix? I mean,
was the flat tire also on Wards Ferry Bridge?
And that was on Highway 120.
Okay.
So that's.
I've been stranded at Wards Ferry Bridge many times.
Oh yeah, spending the night there sucks.
Marty, Joe Daly, one time I asked him for a toolkit so I could fix the truck, and he sent me a Frisbee. And he said when the truck breaks down, just play Frisbee.
Oh yeah, like I've used a 6-pack of Budweiser to put out an engine fire. It's if you take a beer can and shake it really good and open it up right at the carburetor where the flames coming out, burning all the oil off the top of the engine. One or two.
Interesting.
This is my my Guide of the Year trophy.
Mm-hmm. The one that you're giving away, or the one that you won?
No, it's what was given to the Guide of the Year a couple of years ago. It was.
Wait, and were you the Guide of the Year?
Oh, I'm the Guide of the century. So
okay,
but so you give it away and then you take it back, Marty?
Yeah. Why do you have it?
He left it here because he didn't have a place to put it. So I just
got it.
I think it's cool. Just the little swirlies on it and silver ore. They're the special people get. I don't think Aaron ever got one.
No, I never got one.
You would have gotten one if you were still working for him. You would have got it.
Yeah, the year I should have got it. I don't want to mention the name of the person who got it instead of me.
Oh, Bob Barnes.
The person who we don't mention anymore.
What are the initials?
The first initial is M.
Hey, be careful here. You guys can't just badmouth people.
Well, maybe we should. No, we can badmouth this person. I think it's fine. It's an ex of yours.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Those were hard times. 2004 was a bad year for me, and she saved my butt. She's a river guide. She was definitely the Guide of the Year that year. But at Sandpaper needs to go to that one. So.
Yeah. You can just kind of write me over in black for that year. I'll take that. I'll take a whatever.
Were you around when that happened?
Yeah.
That's how memorable Aaron was.
Were you around? And said, I can't believe he gave it to his girlfriend and not to you. That's what people said to me. And I was like, thanks, guys. That makes me feel a little better.
Sorry, if I could do that one over again. No,
I'm fine with it. It's better. It's more fun to give you a hard time. So,
what's Guide of the Year? You just every year you pick somebody and you give them an award called Guide of the Year?
It's actually Guide or boom truck driver or
Employee of the Year.
Or this actually went to Armando. Armando is my food packer, shopper, cook, chef since 1982, and he's still working for me. And Armando has given us a really good spirit, and so he's more like the Employee of the Year award. He's
amazing. He's way more deserving than someone like me is. I just give you a hard time about it because of that year. But Marty, isn't the name of it something else? I thought the award had some other name.
Oh, it's a high stroker award.
The high stroker? Nice.
Yeah, right.
Well, high strokes.
The high stroker award. Yep.
Yeah, and they get their name burned in with a magnifying glass on the high stroker award ore.
Yeah. He's got this nice award.
And you take a magnifying glass to the ore and write their name on the ore.
Using the solar power. Yeah.
I want this award. Now, this is a big deal. Aaron, you were close to getting it, huh?
I feel like that one year I had a chance, but
maybe you and I should go work for Marty for a season, see if one of us can become employee of the year.
Yeah, it's
Employee of the month.
it's a pretty good part of our. We do a big party, about 175 to 140 people or so show up. It's probably because it's free booze and
That helps.
and food. And we have Jeff Hollis does our chefing. Does these like 4 or 5 barrels, tri-tip and chicken and raviolis, and it's a pretty good deal. And they have live band. Adam Ferguson with Zephyr has a band that has played the last 3 years of our party, and so we have dancing and carrying on, and then we do the bag throw contest at the end, as well as hunker down.
Oh, you get everybody. I see what happens. You get everybody drunk, and then you do the bag throw contest.
That is an impairment for some. Yeah,
that's interesting. That's an interesting strategy.
I don't drink now, so it's
exactly.
Yeah, I think you were beating us back when you still drank too, though.
Well, yeah, I was.
Yeah, so I mean, you can try to say it that way, Zach, but he would beat us even back then. It's a great party. It's a really fun party.
It's one of the benefits. It goes to not only our guides, but all the guides from the other companies are encouraged to come, and they do. And the bag throw contest is the peak of that part of the party. The hunker down is kind of interesting as well.
Aaron, sorry, I keep interrupting. I'm sorry. I just had an idea. We should come next year, Aaron, and do a live show from the party.
Yeah.
And like,
Zach, you're good at hunker down. Zach, aren't you good at hunker down?
Yeah. I'm the best at it.
I'm not very good at it. You like that helmet, Marty?
That's old school.
I like it because it says the Grateful Heads. And
I used to have that same helmet in white.
What happened to yours?
I like the sparklies. I like the sun visor, and it's also you need to replace your helmet periodically because fiberglass ages.
Well, Marty, they stopped making that helmet, so right?
Marty, that helmet's over 20 years old.
Yeah, they don't even make Grateful Head helmets anymore.
Well, so is my life jacket. I mean,
Wait, you just said to replace it, and then you're just 20 years old.
Your life jacket's over 20 years old.
I think the helmet's. I got that like 2006, so it's 18.
We'll just round it up to 20.
Yeah. So
okay.
It's okay. Aaron's still wearing the same helmet from '94, so you're beating Aaron.
I think Adam.
No, I got a Grateful Heads helmet too. I got mine about a couple years before Marty.
Mm.
Yeah, I still use mine, but mine doesn't get that much sun. It hasn't been out that much the last few years. So, no. Do we have any more comments? I should get going here fairly soon. Yeah.
Well, this is the longest show we've ever done.
I know.
And so we should close this one down. But before we do any more show and tell, Marty, it's been my favorite part. We should have led with show and tell. Now what do you use that for? You don't put that in your PFD, do you?
To drill big holes. I have a concept that everything is spinning and swirling. And so, Zach, I think you've told me that you are a Whovian. So we know we're co-travelers in the time machine.
Yep.
And so this is my last show and tell.
Okay.
This is from a conch shell that even however many brains the occupant of this thing had, it knew that the Earth and the universe was spinning as it built its house with the tidal waves.
Yep. Well, on that note, Aaron,
maybe we need to end all of our shows with that.
We should get Marty on every show to blow the conch shell.
Amazing, Marty. It's been so fun. I knew it was gonna be great. So glad you could give us your time and come and chat with us. Thank you so much.
And anytime you want to do, this is my key to my time machine.
Oh, cool.
If you're want to go traveling, I'm close to being successful.
Oh, good. Yes.
I'll probably always be close. I don't know if I'll ever get there.
That sounds good. So anything else we need to do here, Zach?
No, I think we really did a number.
Well, you guys, thanks for tuning in. And Marty, thanks for sharing all your treats and stuff. It's an experience going to hang with. Is there a spider, a live spider?
Is that a black widow?
Yeah, that's my pet.
Oh,
my
Marty,
friend. Yes,
dude.
she's my girlfriend when Sybil's not here. So.
Oh, I
Wow.
am super afraid of Black Widows. That just gives me
good.
a sinking.
Okay.
like,
All right, we got to wrap this up. We'll be here for another hour, and that'll get me in trouble.
All right, later.
Oh no, let's get Aaron in trouble, Marty. I like getting Aaron in trouble.
I just want to thank everyone for tuning in, and Marty, thank you so much. Appreciate it. If you haven't hit that like button, please hit that like button. Of course, subscribe so Zach can get to 10,000 viewers. Zach,
10,000 subscribers. We're at
10,070
9,070 subscribers.
9,000.
9070. We're on our way to 10,000.
That's awesome.
The first step to 10 million.
And we'll be back. Are you going to have a Tuesday show, Zach?
If there's questions, nobody's asked a question yet.
Okay.
So if somebody sends Aaron a question, send Aaron a question at aaron@riversnotions.com.
Sounds
and
good.
We'll have a Tuesday show.
Thanks. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, before we go, I have one more question, Aaron.
All right.